Stolen that. Right now, let's go down the roll. Let's just have a roll call.
Sheena Martinez, District 1.
Houston Martin, District 2. Bill King, District 3.
David Mers Jr. for District 4.
Robert Lee, District 5.
And Bruce Alexander, Mayor. All right, now if y'all will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Dear Dawn,
Not that I know of.
Mr. King, would you like to give us
Yes.
an invocation, please?
Nobody criticized him. Almighty God, look over us. Give us hopefully wisdom in our decisions we make. Realize we work for citizens who have appointed and elected us. And that's it. Amen.
Amen. Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. King.
That's okay. You're good.
Okay. You have another one of those. Okay. We're going to move into citizens' comments. The city council will hear comments from any citizen or visitor. Speakers must address their comments to the presiding officer rather than individual council members or staff. Stand at the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, and state your name, residential address before speaking. Speakers will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes for testimony. In accordance with the State Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. Yes, ma'am.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Karen Fifield, 805 Washington Street, here in Castroville. I have two issues going on. The first being the pool renovations there at the park. Somebody in infinite wisdom, I totally understand the need for the ramp into the water that makes it accessible for people in wheelchairs. That's a good thing. But they took out the handrail. So people like myself that have balance as well as mobility issues, there is nothing for me to hold on to. And just so y'all know, that ramp is extremely slick, okay? It's not grooved or anything. Maybe it should be. Maybe that's something you can check into. But all we need is a handrail, something to hold on to as we move into the pool. It could be slanted. My next suggestion would be at the end of that handrail to put a sign that says, "Step down." Because you're wheeling out into that pool and all of a sudden, boom, there's a step. Now, if you look closely at the pool, in the pool, there's a blue tile or something. I'm assuming that is supposed to denote the step. It doesn't. What denoted the step was this cane that I had to use to get into the pool with me, okay? So that's an issue for me. It's an accessibility issue, okay? So they made it great for wheelchairs, but bad for anybody who has regular mobility issues. I do want to compliment the staff, every single person down there, and we all know how I can be, but every person down there was kind, thoughtful, compassionate, empathetic. the staff did a great job. And I do understand that my issues were relayed to the gentleman over there, which is wonderful. But it needs to be corrected. There are, and I trust me, after I found this out, I talked to several people, and there are a lot of people in similar situations as myself that quit going to the pool because it is now inaccessible unless you're in a wheelchair. And do not tell me that they can put your butt in that swingy thing, carnival ride thing, whatever, I don't know what it's called. But it's supposed to swing you out over the water and put you in. Well, if it works great and it swings you out, but guess where it puts you? In the deep end. So if you have issues, you better hope floating's not one of them. So the only other thing I want to bring to your attention is the mosquitoes have now reached horrific proportions. My granddaughter, who is 7, is allergic to the bites. She welts up really bad. I can't let her outside. And usually by this time, it's already been in process, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Citizens' comments. Please name your name and address first.
April Ortiz, 1315 Isabella Street in Castroville. I've been asked by Nicole Schreiner, who's also a Castroville resident at 118 Carm Street, to act as her proxy and read the following brief statement. This message is coming from Lancaster, Ohio, where I'm visiting family. It's a relatively small town, and at its peak, 7 out of 10 people were employed by the local glass factory. Times changed, as did the industry and employment opportunities. Every year or so for the past 20 years, I've visited the area, walking the downtown, frequenting the shops and community spaces, visiting the local swim team. And over the course of the past 5 years, the city has diversified its downtown land use in such a way that one could spend a lifetime there if they wished. For some, small walk-up apartments above the bakery are a perfect fit. For others, townhomes. For others, sprawling homes with half acres for the front lawn and back lawn. The downtown square hosts music and theater during the summer. With the addition of 24 tables, local restaurants and food truck vendors are able to share their goods. With a commitment to mixed-use spaces, all kinds of new businesses are flourishing, from repair shops to glasswork studios. More people are walking downtown and using park areas, and there's a healthy mixture of kids and adults. This is possible because the city was interested in deciding in its own future. Our UDO is a step forward for us. Inaction or rejection of the last several years of UDO development is simply unhelpful to those who would carry the city into the next season of its life. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Anyone else?
Tammy Alexander, 516 Vienna. I'm going to speak about 7A and 7B. I won't be able to be here later in the meeting to do that due to taking care of my mother. So it's 7A, the comprehensive plan, and 7B, the UDO. I have been to several workshop meetings and public hearings over the last couple of years, voicing my concerns about the comprehensive plan and the UDO. Y'all have all been here. And I'm asking City Council at this time not to approve the comprehensive plan or the UDO tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's reset this. Hang on just a second. Okay, yes, ma'am.
I'm Jenny Andermatt, 1201 Alamo, here in Castroville.
Okay.
Thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to speak about the UDO. I don't have much time, so I'm just going to go. The UDO flies in the face of what this community has done historically to embrace growth. It is so important to preserve, protect, and conserve the fabric of Castroville. If a new development does not fit with the integral neighborhoods that already exist, the fabric and heart of the entire community can be negatively impacted, something that cannot be undone. The UDO is an opportunity for land developers, real case there, verbal irony, since the land is often being stripped of its essence of everything that would make it desirable to a community, to receive what they want in exchange for their what? Their expertise in creating house after house on a little lot after little lot. No, thank you. I've heard folks say, there's nothing we can do to stop these developers. We might as well devise a plan to deal with them. But truthfully, it seems like we could stand up and say, we do thank you for your interest in our town and its surrounds, but no thanks. We like it like it is. Some of you may say, what does all this matter? People need to live somewhere. Let's move this UDO forward. But I urge you to stop and think not about filling the city coffers with additional tax revenues, but about what truly matters most of all in this little part of the world, our quality of life in Castroville. We're blessed to live here in a place of great natural beauty with the Medina River, surrounding fields and hills. We're blessed to live in a place where we can walk, commune with nature anytime, day or night, without fear, really, for our personal safety. We're blessed to have people as our neighbors and friends who often share our hometown values. Finally, we're blessed with little ones who love to play outside, ride their bikes, throw balls for their dogs, and play in the sprinklers on hot summer days. These children deserve the life that their parents planned for them when they bought or built or added on to their homes in Castroville, knowing that there were ordinances that existed that put their safety, well-being, and quality of life at the forefront. These cannot be overturned, upended, or rewritten for the sake of high-density housing, something that would be a virtual certainty with the UDO. In closing, I urge the City Council to recognize that the CZO we have in place is a viable guide for Castroville today and moving forward. Perhaps some amendments might be necessary, but the UDO is not the answer. I urge you to say no to high-density housing in Castroville. I urge you to say no to the UDO, or maybe even hell no to the UDO. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, let me go back here. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
My name is Crystal Stutz. I live at 816 Lafayette Street. I just became the chairperson for the Library Advisory Board, and I just wanted to come here and advocate a little bit for funding for the fiscal year budget. As many of you know, the library does a lot for this community, but some of you may not know that last year it lost its accreditation. It also has regained that accreditation due to the hard work of our new librarian this year. And we've worked really hard to deliver a lot of educational access, digital equity, and community programming. This summer, there have been amazing programs with 40 to 50 children at these activities, with the walls just brimming with activity. So why are we asking for a little tiny bit, $25,000 budget raise? Well, in 2018, we had about a 4.3% share of equity in the budget. In 2025, that share of equity has gone down to 1.9%. That means that over 8 years, we have lost about $95,000 in real terms dollars. What we're asking for is a sustainable level of funding at about a 3% projected city budget for fiscal year 2028. This will help us sustain our practices, and it will also help us get ready for the projected growth that this city is definitely seeing. So I wanted to just come here and talk to you about that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to come to our Library Advisory Board meeting. The next one is August 14th at 6:30 p.m. at the library. And anybody who wants to be on the board, I've never seen the room so packed. Y'all should totally come.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Valerie Solis, 1216 Constantinople Street. For the past several months, those supporting the UDO have largely centered their arguments around the money already spent on its development. But this is a textbook example of sunk cost fallacy. No one has been able to clearly explain how the draft UDO, as it currently stands, benefits our existing way of life in Castroville. When I first engaged the former mayor on this topic, I was told more than once, don't sell and you won't have to worry about the UDO. That response was dismissive and revealed just how disconnected this process has become from the very people it affects. The building block project with its 6 phases and or sub-phases was marketed under different names, causing confusion in the community. During these so-called public phases, council representation was minimal and Simple City became the face of the effort. The lack of transparency only deepened mistrust between the citizens and the city leadership. I'm failing to see and hear from the city's perspective how the draft UDO is a more efficient and transparent process for development and ensuring that growth aligns with the community's goals and priorities. That message is either not being communicated clearly or it doesn't align with the content of the document itself. The lack of general consensus on the UDO is a telltale sign that it's not ready to be adopted. Without trust and public buy-in, there's no path forward. I strongly urge the council to vote against adopting the UDO. Accept the financial loss for what it is and redirect efforts towards genuine public engagement, clear communication, and a planning process that reflects the values and vision of Castroville. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Hang on. Yes, ma'am.
Is it too late to hand this in about the UDO to speak on that? Because
No, ma'am. You can turn those in up until the item we
Okay.
have a discussion.
Okay. Good, then I don't have to waste my time on that one.
Okay.
What I want to speak, Kyle McVeigh, 307 Madrid, about the sirens that are in town that are going off and nobody knows why in the hell they're going off. I mean, as a city council, all of you live within hearing distance of it. Did anybody take any precaution to find out why these were going off? Did any alerts go on this alert system that we've signed up for? No. Hey, I have it, Scott. I have the alert
Sent
system.
out an alert the last time it malfunctioned, and we sent one today as well.
Excuse me.
Well, the one that alert that I got, it went off, the siren went off at 9 o'clock or something in the evening. I got the alert at 8 o'clock the next morning.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That doesn't help me too much. So please, have somebody, and I don't expect the people on the staff to do this. I expect the people, y'all to appoint somebody or have somebody so we know what the sirens are going off for. Because one just went off about an hour ago.
Yes, ma'am.
No clue. It just keeps on running. So please, people in Kerrville want to blame all the different people for what wasn't done and sirens and all that. Well, you have an opportunity to not be one of those people. So please take advantage of it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to make citizens' comments?
Hi, Valerie Youngman, different Valerie. 218 Alvena Street and 512 Paris Street. My comments, I'm going to go into the code enforcement summary just because I may not stay long into the meeting. I was pleasantly surprised. It has been years, and you know that I've come up here various times to talk about things not being taken care of in the city. And myself and various people out here, we're big walkers in the morning. We see everything. And it was very nice to see, I printed this out. This is what's going on with code compliance. I'm sure you've seen it. And it's refreshing. And I thank whoever's finally on top of this. I don't know if it took a new group of council people. I don't know, but thank you. Appreciate it. And I know some people are given a little bit of grace. I understand that, but sometimes there's a little bit too much leeway. And as you know, over here behind me at 512 Paris Street, we've been dealing with that for years, and it's still a mess. So we're working on it.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else? Oh, yes, sir.
Mickey Holt's house, 514 Washington Street. I'd like to just lend my support to the excellent statements that Ms. Elise and Ms. Andermatt made, and I concur with their opinions 100%. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Holzhaus, 602 Berlin Street. I'm here this evening to discuss agenda items 7A and 7B concerning the future comprehensive plan and the UDO. Since the future comprehensive zoning ordinance plan and UDO go hand in hand, I am asking the City Council to vote no to these two items. My first concern, the reasoning for saying no, is that one of the major concerns is civic spaces that are allowed for place type 2.5 in our UDO for historic and residential districts. Civic spaces are listed in the UDO as park, green, square, plaza, and pocket park. And these will allow small commercial and temporary commercial in our historic and residential districts. I believe all current residential properties and residential empty lots should stay residential, as they currently are in our current comprehensive zoning ordinance. Also in the UDO under section 4319, civil spaces, it has a bunch of to be determined as the status for the lot sizes, streets, and public frontage for civil properties. So that's a little alarming. That draws a red flag right there to me. Another concern I have is place type P4 in our UDO. It allows for small apartments and cottage courts in our historic district. That is another thing that I did not disagree with. I do disagree with. We were promised by the city this UDO would not change our neighborhoods in the residential and historic districts. Yet the UDO still has civil spaces that allow commercial activities and commercial spaces in our residential and historic districts. I'm asking City Council to keep our promise, to keep our residential areas as they are. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to make citizens' comments? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, members of the community. Terry Beck, I live at 104 Harvest Moon. First of all, I'm shocked that we would spend $500,000+ on a product that is incomplete. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Mr. Holzhaus kind of mentioned it somewhat. I haven't read the entire UDO, but I've read portions of it. And we have words in there like commercial. That opens you up to all kinds of markets. What type of commercial? When you have areas in there where the lot sizes are undetermined, what could that number be? Does anybody know? It's not right. And it's incomplete. I'm not saying that it couldn't possibly be a good product. But folks, we paid over $500,000 for a product that, in my opinion, is incomplete. And those areas need to be defined, distinctively defined. When you and I as individuals, when we go out and borrow money to buy a piece of property or buy a house, we don't walk into the institution and say, well, we're going to buy this, but we really don't know how much we're going to buy or what we're going to put on it. They want to know everything. The lenders do. Do they not? Ask yourself this. Would you spend your money for an incomplete product? And if the answer is no, you shouldn't do it with taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, hang on. Okay. Is there anyone else out here who would like to make citizens' comments? No, I think Councilman Murs, you have a couple citizens that provided some written
Correct.
comments that you'd like to read into the record, sir.
So I received a message from Patrick Connor at 811 Washington Street. Aloha, Mayor and City Council. In my absence from the City Council meeting on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025, I would like to submit this written statement concerning Agenda Item 7B during the public comment period to be recorded in the minutes of this meeting. And then he has the text of the agenda item.
Sure.
So I'm just going to
Skip over
7B,
that.
skip over that. The agenda report in your council agenda packet on this item provides excellent documentation presenting the numerous benefits of the UDO over the current development regulations. City Council members, hopefully you concur that these benefits will help improve the quality of life for both our current and future neighbors. Please accept my respectful encouragement for your approval of the Castroville Unified Development Ordinance for adoption. I fully endorse and support staff recommendation for the adoption of the Castroville Unified Development Ordinance. Thank you all for giving your time to making our community a better place to live. Best wishes to you all, Patrick Connor.
Thank you.
And then I also received a note from Helen Delavin at 1105 Lisbon. David, please read for me. There is already a letter on file from me in support of approving the UDO, so I will be brief. Not approving a document that cost $530,000 and has been discussed, and dissected for 3 years by the public and council makes absolutely no sense to me. If you cannot just approve it as is, then approve it with a caveat that there will be a council workshop within 2 weeks to address any remaining questions. Pushing it on down the road is just not in the best interest of anyone. Thanks, Helen.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And if there's no other comments, this will conclude the citizens' comments. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes for July 8th, 2025 special called meeting, budget workshop. The minutes for July 8th, 2025 regular called meeting. Approval of the second quarter investment report. Approval of the third quarter investment report ending June 30th. And then the other two action items to set dates for public hearings for proposed tax rates and dates for public hearings setting the FY26 budget.
There's also one more, sir, if you'll, the addendum we did, it's
I'm
also under
sorry.
consent.
And there's also an approval of a resolution authorizing the submission of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Local Park Grant Program application. Well, okay. I actually would like to pull the grant some resolution off of the consent item for discussion. I have a concern.
G is to be pulled off.
So G is to be pulled off. Does anybody else have any comments, questions, or if not, I'll entertain a motion. Yes, sir.
One item, the minutes for 8 July,
Yes, sir.
and I've already pointed it out to Ms. Howe. The word jester is in there like a court clown, people like me, and it really should be gesture as in I'm making a kind gesture toward you.
GESTER.
G instead of J.
Okay.
He did.
There's also a couple, Councilman Murs, I just read them today. I think there was a place or two that your Z was left off again.
I will correct it.
Okay, those are minors, but if
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the
G.
understanding that G will be pulled off of separate discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made to approve the consent agenda item, removing item G for further discussion, and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Do we move straight to that item G? Okay. It's going to be really quick, Jonah, really quick. Okay?
You got it.
All right. I'm going to tell you my concern, and I would turn to the city attorney to either say I have valid concern. In the grant application, the Texas Parks and Wildlife folks, it says that we've made a commitment, we've set aside the funds for the match. When we first approved this, and I was in favor of doing this, it was generally understood that we would make the application, but the city would make no commitment for funds unless we got the grant. Then we would consider the $750,000 match. The application that that if council approves this, that I would be asked to sign, basically says we've committed to that. And I don't think we have. So while I support your grant, I would not recommend council to approve it at this time because we haven't committed the funds. And I don't think we're prepared to commit those funds. Sir, that's the way I read it.
I did not see the agenda, so I haven't taken a look at the agreement itself, nor do I have historic context, and I don't want to speak out without having a prepared response.
Well, I know they have a deadline to file it on August 1st. So it's kind of a critical need thing, but Scott.
Yeah, I'll just say, you're still not obligated to spending those funds. You're still not obligated to receiving the grant.
Okay.
And that, I think, was the concern of council is like, do we still have an opt-out? If they say, yes, you're awarded, can we say, you know what, we decided not to accept it after all? You can still do that. It does ask you to, basically, you're confirming that those funds have been set aside for the application of this grant, so that should you receive the award of that grant, those funds are available. You're stating all those things,
right?
But you're still retaining the right to refuse in the future. And I think that was that was the council's main concern is, are we saying that these, yea, verily, these funds will be spent for this project, and you are not. And that agreement doesn't say that either.
Okay.
All it's saying is that you have the funds. Like, you're not, what is it, Stimpy, whatever the guy's name is on Popeye, I'll pay you gladly on Monday for a hamburger today. Wimpy. We're not doing that to they want to know that we have the wherewithal to match.
Okay.
And that's all this is saying is you do have the wherewithal. You are setting aside those funds that should you get awarded the grant and should you decide to accept the grant, you will spend that money. That's all.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that by the council passing this resolution, by me signing this document, does not commit the city to $750,000.
It does not. It does not. You will still have the opportunity to refuse it.
That's you got to understand that.
Oh, no, without a doubt. I understand.
And I think it's great that you have all the support of the folks, and I support it too. I just don't want to be on the hook for that until we actually decide how to go. Okay, that's my comment.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to authorize the submission of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Local Park Grant Program application.
And approved by ordinance, or I'm sorry, by resolution.
Approved by resolution.
Approved by resolution.
I'll second.
Let me read that one time. Okay, motion made and second to approve a resolution authorizing submission of Texas Parks and Wildlife Local Park Grant Program application. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? None. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
All right. I'm going to go to the next item, but before I go to this, I want to read a comment. I want to read something that I actually talked with the city administrator this morning. Okay. The next items, I just want to make it clear. Okay. I want to set some the attorney's going to correct me if I'm wrong by doing this, but I believe I'm following under a Robert's Rules of Order type process. I want to set some ground rules on the items that's going to come up with the comp plan and the UDO. Okay. I have a list of people that want to speak on it, and that's wonderful because everybody can. And we have our rules for that. But while members of the public will have the opportunity to share their comments, this meeting is not a public hearing and should not be construed as an open discussion between the public and the city council. We are not here to debate positions or issues associated with the comp plan or the UDO, or negotiate any changes to the documents that were approved on P&Z and recommended approval by the City Council. This time has passed over the last few years that we've had all of those discussions back and forth. We are, in my opinion, here to take action on the recommendation of the P&Z to adopt both the new comprehensive plan and the UDO as presented. That's it. Okay? That's the way I see the agenda.
May I ask the attorney a question?
Not yet. Let's go to the citizens' comments here, the public participation form. Mr. Beck, you have a comment that you're generally not sure. Would you like to make comments on this?
Can I go later?
Well, I put them in order, but I'll move that around. Kyle McVeigh, would you like to make a comment?
Other than the fact that you're not going to go through the UDO now or anything like that, I'd rather wait.
Wonderful. Jennifer Andermatt,
I thought I spoke what I came here to speak.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Valerie Youngman,
I just ditto all the other people that said we are against adopting.
Claudia Hoshouse,
Ditto.
okay? Mickey Holzhaus,
We got one.
Mickey Holzhaus, 514 Washington. I've been in attendance to many of the meetings, workshops, et cetera, not all, but many, and council meetings. The ball has been batted back and forth. There are people that are for the UDO. There are people against it. It was originally proposed to wordsmith the CZO, Simple Cities Work. It didn't turn out that way. Actually, as it turned out, even though many people will deny it, it was creating a new platform for high-density housing in the old part of town. It was never high-density housing wasn't part of the development out here east of town. It was all internally in the old part of town. And it was all driven, and in my opinion only, it was all driven at the expense of the citizens that exist in the old part of town and at the benefit of developers that had already, in some cases, moved forward without the changes being made. So consequently, as we all know, some of these development proposals have been withdrawn and are modified. And it's just an example of a document, as many people have mentioned, that is incomplete, over budget, in my opinion, not managed by anyone on this city that entered into this agreement. And that's why we are where what we have that's what we have today, an incomplete document. The documents we had were fine. It just takes a little time to learn what those documents are and how to interpret it. Questions have been raised about, well, it could be interpreted one way or another, the current CZO. And that's on purpose. We want to interpret these documents to the benefit of the city, not to the benefit of the developer. We've already got a situation where we're probably going to pay $25 million plus for a water system that should have been paid for, in my opinion, by the developers. Oh yes, it's supposed to backfeed and help the citizens in the old part of town, improve the water security, et cetera. That's just idle talk. You want to improve the water system, dig up the small water line down my street and put in a new one that can provide pressure when my sprinkler system's on. So my point is that this UDO should not be adopted. Throwing good money after bad. Thank you.
Wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. McVeigh?
Kyle McVeigh, 307 Madrid. I don't totally agree with Mr. Holzhaus on everything about the current ordinances and the current CZO are good. They're not. There were loopholes in that caused the city issues in permitting, everything down the line. Now, I should have done more research to make so I could bring specific ones to you to tell you why I feel that way. But there are things in the current ordinances that allow people to do things that you're voting against, saying the UDO has. No, they're already in our current ordinances. And I'm sorry, but they were a mess to begin with. Yes, we've lived with them for the last 20, 25 years, but that doesn't mean that they need to go for the next 20 years. They're not that great. Yes, the UDO has issues. It needs to be worked on, but it can be. That's what your job is for. I mean, the citizens have had their input. The citizens have come to these meetings and everything, and giving the current, Brianna, I'm not sure what your title is. Right, I thought it was community development. But all of the issues that have been come to her, she's addressed them, she's talked to these people, she's emailed them back. If you as the council, have you sent out stuff to them? Have you sent these things to her so she can correct them or address them? If you're being specific, then do so if you reject this. Say exactly why, not just that it's incomplete or not that it needs this. All types of funding like this need help. And I don't agree with the fact of just throwing the $530,000 out the door. I mean, we could have used that money for something else. So what are you going to do? You're going to hire somebody else? You're not going to do it. You're not qualified. You're qualified to make changes. But as far as upgrading and doing all that, you're going to have to hire somebody else. So how much are we going to spend on that? Why not work with what you have and fix it? Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you. Mr. Beck?
How many of y'all remember this statement?
Name and address.
Terry Beck, 104 Harvest Moon.
Thank you.
I think I still live there.
Thank you.
How many of y'all remember this statement? We need to pass the bill so we know what's in it. And look at the mess it got us in. Y'all remember that? I do. I'm not saying this could not be a good product for the city. What I'm saying is, y'all are not ready to take action on this because it is incomplete. There's too many uncertainties in it. And uncertainties usually lead to train wrecks. And as far as developers go, we don't owe them anything. They owe us if they want to come here and develop. And remember this, once a development is developed, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, when it's developed out, the developer's off the hook. They got their money and they're gone. Who is stuck with the M&O operations of that development? Who is stuck with the taxes? The people who live there, the people who conduct business there. The developer is gone somewhere else to do the same thing. Get it right. We, and I'll say we, because I'll take as much blame for this as anybody, is not getting involved more. but I had reasons of why I didn't. Get it right before you pass it, because once you pass it, nothing ever changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go further, I have to back up a little bit, and I apologize. I need to read the agenda item. I forgot to actually do that. So before we go further, this first item is discussion and appropriate action on an ordinance repealing and replacing the city's 2011 comprehensive plan adopted by ordinance number 2011-008 and amended by ordinance 2017-007 with the Castroville back to our future comprehensive plan. I just want to make it clear the comprehensive plan is required to be adopted before the UDO can even be considered. So the first thing on the agenda is the comprehensive plan. And so we can open a discussion. I would ask for a motion and then a second, then we can have a discussion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance repealing and replacing the city's 2011 comprehensive plan adopted by ordinance number 2011-008 and amended by ordinance 2017-007 with the Castroville back to our future comprehensive plan. That's the recommended motion.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve an ordinance repealing and replacing the city's 2011 comprehensive plan adopted by ordinance number 2011-008 and amended by ordinance 2017-007 with the Castroville back to our future comprehensive plan. I'll now open for discussion, and Mr. Murs, please.
May I ask the attorney a question?
Yes, sir.
Is it true? So we have a comprehensive plan on the books that has been adopted. Do we have to adopt this comprehensive plan in order to adopt the Unified Development Ordinance, or would our current comprehensive plan also suffice? We do have a comprehensive plan on file.
So I haven't been involved in the development. I don't know if staff can speak to how in alignment they are, but my understanding is that these were written to be together. And so a comprehensive plan, the Unified Development Ordinance has to be in alignment with the comprehensive plan as you suggested. And so, but the history of the difference between this one and that one, whether they comport, would have to come to staff.
Yeah, so the way it's appeared in the agenda is how it's been recommended by our, what?
P&Z recommended.
Well, no, I'm talking about the order, comprehensive plan, then UDO was recommended by our attorneys and consultants on the agenda and how to address these items. But if you're asking the question on whether or not the current comp plan comports with the proposed UDO, the comp plan considers things like future land development, land uses, that sort of thing. And to that end, I'd suggest that both comprehensive plans are substantially similar. They both contemplate a downtown revitalization or efforts to renew and improve the historic areas of downtown. Can you think of any major areas where they differ?
The thoroughfare plan.
Certainly, yeah, there's a thoroughfare plan option, but that's our thoroughfare plan aspect to it. But that thoroughfare plan is that's a separate document. It's not. It's just reference or mention in the comprehensive plan. Brianna, can you think of any other major ways that the existing comp plan would not fit with the proposed UDO?
No, I'm sorry, not off the top of my mind. Yeah, the comprehensive plan is a big picture document, so it doesn't speak to zoning and it doesn't speak to those kinds of things or subdivision or like regulations. It's just a big picture document. So essentially they're both big picture documents. I would say that the new comprehensive plan does have that more form-based feel to it. I don't know if it could still be if our existing comprehensive plan could still speak to that, since that's what the UDO essentially is. I'm not 100% sure though.
Okay, excuse me, David, did you have anything else?
No, that answered my question. Well, I have other things to say, but I just wanted to get the legal clarification before
Well,
we started
I'm
discussion.
allowing you to go first since you
Oh.
made the motion.
Okay, cool. So on the comprehensive plan, I think a lot of the major subject areas in this comprehensive plan just make sense. The techniques it discusses and the plans it makes for drainage and for our streets can make a huge difference on a perennial issue in this town, which is the drainage. They provide very concrete, tangible recommendations on how we could go about starting to control that in a better way without breaking the bank. Hang on. And it does touch on Highway 90, and I know a lot of people say, you don't own any of that land. Why would you even talk about what 90 is? TxDOT owns it. I think it's good to have, and if we did own it all, plan for 90, that corridor, to train towards over time, just like you train a bush or a vine. Because right now, there is no overarching vision for what that area should look like. And that area is what most people see when they drive through Castroville. I've had coworkers from San Antonio tell me rather sheepishly that, we drove through Castroville this weekend and we really didn't see what was so special about it. And I told them to come back and meet me on Houston Square and let's go for a walk. And the instant they turned off of Highway 90 and were a block away, they got it. They saw what all of us see. And I think that, having a plan for if we had control, what would it look like is a huge step in the right direction. So as I motioned, I think we should adopt this comprehensive plan.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lee.
And we're just talking comp plan right now.
Comp plan, yes, sir.
Even though they're like this.
You by local government code, you must adopt the comp plan before you can go to the zoning ordinance. They're hand in hand.
I was going to mention the UDO, which I've read through too many times and have made at least 20 pages of input, Ms. McVeigh, to Brianna Soto, maybe more, about my concerns with issues in there. So yes, council has to take a look, participated in the events they had and so forth. And out of the totality of District 5, which you notice my very good friend Helen Delvin had Mr. Murray's read her comments, I had two people that supported these documents, just two. Anyway, it refers in the UDO to the comp plan for compliance with things that are in the UDO, forms to follow, how things should flow, how it fits in the overall plan. So those two documents are like that. And so if you think you can keep the one we have now and put the other one into effect, when it refers back to the other one, it's just another item to go in and fix. And so my vote at this particular point, especially since it's not required by state law anymore, is that we do not saying in the future there might be some useful things we can do with this. And I will make a combined statement between the two. I have asked repeatedly for examples of conflicts in the subdivision ordinance and the CZO. I've asked for names of towns in the United States of our size or bigger that are using these documents. I have gotten 0 responses. This has been about a 3, 4, 5 month request on my part. And so I'm still waiting for those conflicts. Ms. McVeigh knows I was on P&Z for at least 4 years, council for another 8, zoning board for another 5. So I got like at least 17 years dealing with these documents. I'm fairly familiar with them. And are there some things that need to be fixed in the documents we have? There are. Are they showstoppers and stop development and, my gosh, have nightmares? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. To me, you've gone off to another island somewhere in the world when you start talking about this comprehensive plan for the city and the UDO. It's on another planet. And so my decision would be to not support the UDO comp plan. And I'll say UDO later.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. King?
When we started this process, we were, the state at that time said you needed to redo these comp plans every 5 years. And then, of course, the state rescinded that. But any well-run business goes back and looks at its plan and sees if there could be modifications to what needs to be improved. As David said, this is a pretty comprehensive plan. It's a plan. It's not a criteria. It's just a plan, and including drainage, and which we know that's probably one of the right at the top of the concerns of people in the old historic area as well as in the new developments to the east. So I would say yes, we should adopt this plan. And as it is, it's a plan. It's but it tells us what we need to be looking at as we adopt other things. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do it because there's stuff in here that we're not in the old plan, and it was stuff that was developed after meetings with the planning and zoning boards and other citizens and everything. So this has nothing to do with UDO. This is by itself to be voted up or down. I encourage us to adopt this plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Okay, Mr. Marchman.
We beat this thing like really good. I'm good, 100%.
Okay, Ms. Martinez.
With Houston, can't beat the drum anymore. It's broke. It's ready to be voted on.
Okay, are there any other discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor and a second to adopt the ordinance repealing and replacing the city's 2011 comp plan adopted by ordinance number 2011-008 and amended by ordinance 2017-007 with the Castroville back to our future comprehensive plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that would be a 3-2 nay. The motion has failed. So do I need to have another motion, or is it just a no on this? Just a no. Okay. All right. That has failed. Let's go to item B, discussion and appropriate action on an ordinance adopting a unified development ordinance that unifies the zoning, subdivision, and signs ordinances and repealing the comprehensive zoning ordinance, Chapter 100 subdivision, and Chapter 24 signage of the Castroville Code of Ordinances. Before I call for a motion on that, I'm going to ask, as stated before, no comprehensive plan, no to UDO. Am I correct? So what kind of action, do I need to take any action on this? Because there's no action to take.
You can still have the discussion if you want. If there's feedback that people have, it sounds like people reserved their feedback for this item.
Okay.
So you can have discussion and there not be any action because it functionally tables that.
Right.
Or you could vote it down so that it's together.
So we can make a motion to vote it down so that both basically no, or we can just do nothing on that.
Yes,
Okay.
but I would recommend opening for discussion.
Right. Well, let me ask for a motion if there's a motion, and if there's no motion, we'll just open up discussion.
Would you read the item first?
Ma'am?
Did you read the item?
I did.
I'm sorry, I didn't even hear it.
Okay, but I'm
apologize.
asking if there's
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
This one's even longer than the last one. I move to adopt the Unified Development Ordinance that unifies the zoning, subdivision, and sign ordinances and repealing the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 100 subdivision, and Chapter 24 signage of the Castroville Code of Ordinances. And modified to forbid ADUs in place type P2.5 and remove the cash option for water rights.
Okay, now before I call for a second, I'm going to turn to the attorney. You just told us, and we just said we can't adopt this because we didn't do a comp plan. So that's an invalid, how would I say that? Would that be an invalid motion?
Ma'am?
No, I'm asking.
It would still be, I don't know that it would be valid or invalid necessarily, but people can still vote no. So you can make a vote or make a motion in the affirmative, knowing that you're going negative, or in the negative, know that you're voting affirmative.
Even though the item cannot be adopted because you didn't do the other one?
Is relative.
Okay.
Should not.
Okay.
Not in conformance, they're not in conformance, so it would be violative of state law for them to be in conformance. But you still have the ability to pass it.
I just want to be straight with this and make sure we do it the right way. Okay, before I call for a second,
I'd still like to ask her a question.
well, let's wait till we get to a discussion because you have a motion. There's a motion on the floor.
Well, respectfully, it's a clarification on the same legal issue you've been talking about. Because when we asked her about this on the comprehensive plan,
Yes, sir.
we do have a comprehensive plan adopted right now. She said that if the current comprehensive plan was broadly in line with the UDO could still be adopted and that she would defer to staff. And staff said they felt as if the current comprehensive plan is largely in line or compatible with the UDO.
That's not what the staff's, that's not what I heard, but I'm not going to argue with you. Because I believe these documents went hand in hand and were prepared together and were supportive of
they
each other.
definitely support one another. But again,
okay,
I was unaware that this was going to come up as a legal issue. But the comprehensive plan is sufficiently broad. The one that you have right now and the one that you're adopting are sufficiently broad. They both work with the UDO or the CZO. Think about it this way. The CZO and residential or subdivision ordinances that you have, sign ordinances you have in place.
Okay.
Presently, there's many of those that don't necessarily comport with your current comprehensive plan, right? But they're both in place. There are places where they conflict. These conflicts have been pointed out.
Okay.
So I don't think that, honestly, I think you can take whatever, I'm pretty sure we know the outcome, but I think you can take whatever vote you'd like. The UDO, while the comprehensive plan that was proposed that's now been voted down fits with UDO better than the current comprehensive plan, it's not mutually exclusive. The current comprehensive plan does not prohibit this UDO from being adopted, in my opinion. And I can
Okay.
take that thing.
I'll leave it at that. We have a motion on the floor to adopt the UDO. But if I can read it again, but I will. But do we have a second on that?
With modifications. There's modifications is what it is.
I'll accept it with the modifications.
Okay, we're going to read this again. A discussion
I didn't make the exactly the recommended motion. So would you like me to read it again?
Sure.
Okay. I said, I move to adopt the Unified Development Ordinance that unifies the zoning, subdivision, and sign ordinances and repealing the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 100 Subdivision, and Chapter 24 Signage of the Castroville Code of Ordinances, modified to forbid ADUs in place type P2.5 and remove the cash option for water rights. That is what I said.
Okay.
And I seconded that.
Okay, and you seconded that. Okay, motion made and second. And now we're going to open this up for discussion, even though, okay, I'll just leave it at that. We're going to open it up for discussion. Mr. Mers.
Can I make my statement in two parts? Once now and then once after we come back around?
Yes, everybody's going to get, basically get an opportunity for that. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I wanted to address a few things that were said in citizens' comments. Someone raised that P4, which would go in part of our existing historical district, would allow townhomes and small apartments, and they were very alarmed about that. I'd like to emphasize that that area is currently zoned CG, or Central Business District, and the Central Business District allows 2, 3, and multifamily homes as permitted uses currently. So that's already legal, actually. And in fact, we have what is essentially a very large apartment building right off of Houston Square in the form of the Moy Retreat Center. So I just want to clarify that allowing those isn't actually much of a change. And the HLC would still have control over exterior changes in that area. Second, I heard comments about high-density development in existing areas. The UDO, the proposed zoning map puts P 2.5 over all existing single-family residential zoned areas, which does not permit anything other than single-family homes. In the draft, as it was presented, it permits ADUs in those areas, and there are ADUs in those areas already. But my motion would forbid that in that zone. So density would not change, number of lots per block would not change in existing areas. And as for TBD on lot sizes and lot widths in civic space is a zone specifically designed for the city's use, for religious institutions, and for other government entities like school districts. It's TBD because those buildings come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and it's kind of weird to try and specify like a lot width for a park. But no like private owner could ever try and take a farm field and break it up into a bunch of civic space lots of arbitrary size and then build whatever they want on it. It's just TBD because this is specifically designed to catch those really sort of oddball government uses exclusively. And Mr. Lee asked for examples of place type zoning. And you've mentioned one of these to me before, so I suspect you've heard of it. Bastrop adopted place type zoning in 2019, and Bandera, Texas adopted it in 2021. I haven't been able to find places outside of Texas that use the term place type zoning. I have a suspicion that it's kind of a term of art for an attempt to do a form-based code inside the limits of what the Texas state legislature allows us to do. However, there are lots of examples for places with zoning very much like ours. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Detroit, San Antonio, Austin, all use single-use districts much like the ones we already have. They specify lot widths, they specify lot sizes, they specify large setbacks. These places are all buckling under the cost of their infrastructure. They are all choking on exhaust from the gridlock they get trying to move cars from their seas of copy-paste cul-de-sacs to their copy-paste commercial areas. They are all seeing housing costs soar while people who grow up there are forced to leave because they can't afford to stay. Maybe place-type zoning is an untried experiment, although there are examples out there. But I think conventional zoning like we have has been tried for 80 years and shown to not work in areas that are rapidly growing. And I'll hold the rest of my comments until we come back around. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let me go to my next one. Mr. Lee.
Wow. I'll say wow to that one. I had previously mentioned to council, and I thought we were not going to get into specifics.
I had asked that, but I'm going to leave a little latitude.
I checked with the contractor, and there are plenty of contractors online that would like to study place type zoning. There really are.
You're going to have to speak.
We're working with.
You're going to have to speak into the microphone.
The company that we're working with had done 2 towns, Taylor and Bandera, and not exactly the same as us. As council heard me say before, I had talked to Bernie to see what they had done, and as I reported to council, Bernie had tried a development in their town with place type. The word UDO means absolutely nothing. Okay, UDO has got nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're really talking about place type zoning. Okay, unified development ordinances are, that could be anything, and so don't get UDO mixed up with place type zoning. Anyway, I still have yet to see all those great examples of all these places that do that. We are unique. We're not like everybody else. And so I tried to find places that were similar to us and talk to. And Bernie said they had tried it. It was extremely slow to take off because when you try to integrate a commercial in a neighborhood, then that means a commercial has to have enough business to stay in business. Okay, and when you start fencing off neighborhoods that want to mix that stuff up in a Walt Disney World kind of a setting, it's very difficult for the businesses. And so they determined that this really isn't working. We're going to stick with what's traditionally done in probably 95+% of the United States. and that is the kind of zoning we currently have. I was unhappy, I'm going to be sarcastic here. There's so many people who were so unhappy with how Castroville had developed that they want to throw out what we've done for so many years and go to something else. And so, as you heard me before say, my experience has been dealing with these ordinances. This place type zoning is a dramatic departure from what Castroville has been. And some of the words I see in the ordinance that say, traditionally we've been this, and place type will be the same thing, that's baloney. Okay, we've always been a town with a central core with business, residential outside of that. Okay, that's what we've always been. And I think that's what we want to remain. But anyway, right now we have a CZO that regulates what's already built or built within areas within the city limits, or if you want to do a subdivision, you have a subdivision ordinance. So far, none of the developments that are happening on the edge of town to the tune of thousands and thousands of homes are doing place type zoning. And most of them are not doing subdivision either. They're doing a bastardization that is going to be talked about later. Not that it's necessarily bad, but it isn't any of those. And so my vote is don't keep this as a contentious issue where part of the city hates it, part of the city loves it. There's no reason to adopt something that people do not like and they're uncomfortable with, and they'll hold their neighbors accountable. Okay, we can do better than that. And so that's my 2 bits. I got your 2 pennies. I'll give them back to you.
Thank you.
And so I'm a definite no.
Thank you, Councilman Lee. Councilman King.
Basically, no.
Yeah, it seems that first I'm going to start with a question of Brianna. In the CZO or development current ordinances, if you were to build a new building along Highway 90, anywhere along Highway 90, it could be a pre-engineered metal building and no problem at all. Metal skin work and so forth.
That's correct, yeah.
In the UDO, it would stay the same or not?
We can't regulate building materials unless it's within a historic district, so that would remain the same.
You could use a pre-engineered metal building along the historic district.
Not in the historic
Right
district.
along Highway 90.
That's correct.
Okay. I was hoping that it changed that because I keep getting people asking, why do we let pre-engineered metal buildings go along Highway 90? Because that kind of goes back to David's comment that you have people, you talk to them about Castroville and their experience is 90 and they say, what's so special about Castroville? You get 1 block over and it's great. So I've been on council 3 years, 10 years actually, but the last 3 years, same as Brianna. And the other council people are new, but, and I think if I'm correct, well, going back.
He said Brianna, you meant Sheena. You said Brianna, you meant Sheena.
I mean, Sheena. I was going to Sheena. But it seems that the biggest thing anybody's ever mentioned that they don't like about the UDO is that it increases density. And what I kept asking as city council as this thing moved down the road, we're not going to change anything to the historic district. We're not going to change anything in the already as-built neighborhoods. Country Village, River Bluff, Holzheim, none of those get changed. And the UDO still keeps the same lot size as they ever did. But one thing they did was that they actually, the UDO, if it were to be passed, would reduce density in new housing. If they came into the vacant lots, you tore down a house and built a new house, because now there's this restriction on the amount of impervious cover. You can't just go in and make 90% of your lot buildings. And now in the new areas, it does change it. But in the new areas, our subdivision ordinance, there's actually 0 lot size. You could go and do 100 square foot lot size according to the subdivision ordinance. So they could present that to the city. The UDO restricts it to 4,500. I'm asking. 3,500 square feet. That's just the starting point. So the starting point's not zero. The starting point's 3,500 square feet in new areas to east, west, north, and south. But in the existing historic core and the existing neighborhoods, you cannot change the lot size. It stays the same. The UDO has it the same. Now, as David said, he recommended we take out the ADUs because there's a lot of controversy on both sides. Technically, you could go build an ADU in the old days. You just had to call it a servant's quarters. You didn't have to have a servant live in it. You just had to call it a servant's quarters. But so we're going to take that out. So actually, the UDO protects a lot of the stuff. Since I've been on council over the last 10 years, I can't tell you how many times it's come to council that, people are upset at us because this got approved and it shouldn't have been approved. Well, because part of one of the ordinances says you can do it and the other ordinance says you can't. So, and I think, Terry, maybe you said that, it's good to have conflict like that because you can interpret it. Well, interpretations go both ways because the property owner also has the right to interpret it his way, just like the city has the right to interpret it his way. So over the last 3 years, these conflicts have been trying to be worked out. And like several of them said, well, at the very least, for 3 years, the Planning and Zoning Board, the citizens' comments, everybody, Bob, sending in comments about things to correct in the documents. They were continuously corrected. That's why it cost so much. They blew the budget, not because they misunderstood their task. It's because we just had so many meetings. And when we had meetings and new things came up, then they had to go back and rewrite things. And up till the very end, they were changing things. The reason it's an incomplete document now is because we've canceled their services and we're not using them anymore. I forget who said it. It's a really important thing. If we don't have a plan where we're going forward and we just vote this thing down and there's no plan to take our existing documents and correct them and take out these conflicts in them, and staff can't do that. They don't have enough time and everything else. You need to hire somebody to do it, a consultant. So why don't we take this document that's been 3 years in the making, thousands and thousands of man hours, voluntary man hours, and change those little things. Sheena went through and did a very detailed review, and there were some things that she felt needed to be changed or addressed. I know ADUs was one of them. For instance, Sheena has always said the only comment I've ever heard from you related to this, and I may be wrong, but you've always voted with council we should move forward. Herb Dwyer was the only one who really didn't think we should be doing this, but all the votes are always 4-5. So we've gone around almost 3 years now moving forward with this document because we all realized that growth was coming to the east, and this was the best way to control the growth was to give them a plan of what we expected them to have. And if you give them what we have now, the C&Z, it's like open season. If you give them this new UDO document, it really does restrict the quality of the development out to the east. But I know Sheena was upset because she never thought that we should have alleyways. But our current CZO allows alleyways. And in some neighborhoods, you can have very, very nice alleyways. My sister-in-law and her husband live up in a $1 million home type subdivision in Dallas, and there are no driveways in the front of their houses. They're all off really nice concrete alleyways, and all the garages are back. That's just one type of plan. So Sheena and I have always disagreed with that one. But again, the only thing, and I've mentioned this to many people, we were given the task to try to control the growth to the east. And that's what this is. It doesn't change anything. In fact, Joel, you mentioned some items in there. I think those have been addressed. But if there is I just printed it out. Those are still current. No. If there is anything in there, then those need to be corrected because those were things we gave to Sheena and staff. Well, and I'm talking about this increased density in the historic areas and increased density in the as-built neighborhoods. The intent of this is nothing would change. And you all have sat there and heard me say that. Nothing is going to change those rules we had in those areas. And I think this document has done that. But if there are some little areas that we have still overlooked, we can correct those. But the worst thing to do is turn this thing down and let it go out and have no plan, because we're going to be in the same thing we were 10 years ago, and we're going to have the same problem with this growth coming from the east. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Let me put this down. Mr. Marksman,
Can I reserve till after Mr. Rose finishes his comments?
everybody's going to get one more shot.
Oh,
So if you would like to make any comments, you're welcome to it.
I'll wait.
Okay? Ms. Martinez?
The UDO. There, on my flights back and forth to Japan, I had plenty of time to read it and everything. I'm still against alleyways. Phil, you've had the Dallas and Texas experience. I've had all the United States that have alleyways, and I have not seen, the majority of them are not a good thing because they bring trash, crime, flooding. It's there. And everybody's like, whoa, wait, we don't flood that. We go from one extreme to the other. I mean, look at poor Kerrville. So, yes, I'm still against that wholeheartedly. There are items that need to be addressed. There's still let me get to my page here because I have all my notes. So regarding parking, there's 5.4, we cannot say parking shall not be the driver of site planning. Per federal law, you got to have 4 parking spaces for commercial buildings. Industrial buildings that are 1,000 square foot, you got to have 1 per 400 square feet. Office space, 4 per 1,000 square feet. Restaurants, 1 per 100 square feet. So there's still issues with this document. And I gave the recommendation of, I believe the smart thing to do to calm citizens and make it a win-win situation for all is for now to take the changes that we were told they were tracking from the current CZO to the UDO, plug in those modifications in the current CZO, and then create a committee with a rep from HLC, P&Z, 1 city council member, and a citizen from each district, as well as a couple of business owners, one on the east side, one on the west side, and give them the UDO and let them go over the suggestions in the UDO and inform us of what they believe should be. That way, every resident is represented on either scale. That way they can tell us what should be kept in it, what should be changed. And let the citizens decide if the document that this committee creates should be approved by council. That way, all citizens have a say and everything is based off of citizen feedback. So that's my impression. I cannot see this as a standalone document. If anything, modernize it and make it as a reference document in the CZO, from the CZO, just like was done making the historical landmark document as a reference point in the CZO, in the UDO. That's my input.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're going to go by one more time. Mr. Mers, do you have something else you wanted to add?
Absolutely, but first I would like to amend my motion.
Can't. I have a motion on the floor. We have to take action on that before we can amend it. Am I correct in that? You can propose an amendment, and then the council has to vote on that to approve the amendment. So if you would.
The second vote, the final vote would be a motion to approve as amended.
Right, but there has to be a motion to amend, second, and a council action to amend, once a motion's on the floor.
I thought Robert's rules, if the person who made the motion and the person who seconded the motion both agree with the change, so that's.
Once the chairperson puts it on the floor for discussion, it can't be changed except for a motion, second, and action. Am I correct? That's out of Robert's Rules of Orders.
Well, no, I just say how we've done in the past.
I know what you've done in the past, but I've been very clear with council members to reference this book.
Right.
So I've referenced this book in preparation and anticipation of these. The main motion on the table on the floor, once it's read into the motion and the discussion begins, you either take action on that, or if there's an amendment, there can be a motion for an amendment that has to be seconded and voted on to amend the original motion.
Right.
Okay, then I
Yes.
move to amend my motion.
Okay, in what way, sir?
I would amend my motion to add federal handicap parking requirements if they are not already present in the document, and establish Councilwoman Martinez's recommended committee to create a set of recommendations for future adoption after the adoption of the UDO.
Okay, there's a motion to.
Okay, to add, I'm sorry.
The handicap
And
parking.
I
To
can
add
step through that
federal
again slowly.
parking
And-
standards.
If not already
And
adopted.
to
Ma'am,
move,
I have it written down.
sure.
And establish Councilwoman Martinez's recommended committee
Okay.
to create a set of recommendations for future adoption after the adoption of the UDO.
Okay, there's,
Modifications.
there's an amendment,
Yeah.
amended to the original
Yeah, I get that part.
motion for as spoke. Is there a second on that?
I second that.
Okay, the motion and second to amend the original motion to include the parking and the recommendations of Ms. Martinez for a review committee. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed to the amendment?
Nay.
Motion to fails, there's no amendment. So if you'd like to make any additional comments to the original motion, you're welcome to do so.
Yes, I would. Thank you. Give me just a moment. Okay. Sorry, scrolled to the wrong place. You asked for examples of this style of development. Hometown, Texas is a development north of DFW that did exactly this kind of development. In a relatively small area, it built a variety of housing types, a variety of businesses, in a highly walkable area, and it's been doing quite well for several decades. Also, Castroville, in a number of ways that I'm about to lay out, the UDO more closely imitates what Castro laid out than the CZO does, which is reflected by the fact that a majority of the city of Castroville existed before our zoning ordinances did. The only substantial development since then is east of the river along Highway 90. But the UDO does a lot of things. I'm going to talk about 5 things. First, parkland dedication. Our current ordinances require open space dedication, but that open space seems to always end up distributed throughout the neighborhood as drainage, 1 or 2 foot strips next to the sidewalk, and landscaping around the neighborhood monument sign. The UDO requires that contiguous areas be zoned civic space for parks and city buildings early in the process, guaranteeing that the open space can't later scatter to the corners like roaches when the light turns on. 2, specifying zoning ratios. The UDO requires every development over a few blocks to include multiple different zones in defined ratios. This does not require commercial to be mixed in on every block, but it requires every development to include places where businesses can be started and new residents can be employed and buy the goods and services they need, just like what Castro laid out. Shops in the center, dense housing around it, sparser housing towards the edges. This keeps us from becoming a bedroom community, it keeps trips off of US 90, and it helps keep the city's revenue in line with the city's infrastructure expenses. Third, commercial areas. The UDO bans big box stores and the kind of commercial sprawl you see along 1604, I-410, and throughout every large city in America. Instead of endless expanses of parking lots and national chains that put local businesses out of business, the UDO requires commercial areas to be designed like Fiorella Street, Paris Street, and Houston Square. the areas we love and celebrate. 4. Street grid. Current ordinances permit seas of cul-de-sacs where everyone has to exit onto 90 to go anywhere, even to the next development over. The UDO requires all developments to draw a street grid, much like Castro did. This grid is required to connect, where possible, to existing streets, and to leave stubs where future developments can connect in. This reduces traffic on 90 by letting traffic flow elsewhere and makes future developments, it makes it far easier for pedestrians, cyclists, and children to safely move about from place to place. 5. And perhaps most importantly, the UDO specifies how to select between different processes. Our current ordinances are 3 different documents written at different times by different people. Each specifies its own regulations and its own requirements. But there is not a well-defined, unified way to select between the various processes that they supply. Which requirements, which hearings before which boards, etc. This has been a huge problem over the time I've lived in Castroville. I have been in hearings where 2 people both came in and in turn very confidently asserted the process selected for this development was illegal because the project actually needed to use process A. No way, process B. Both thought it was clear as day, but it's clear as mud. You tell me the difference between a PUD or a PD planned zoning development and when each one applies, and one of them will disagree with you. The UDO explicitly states which process to use when, over under this acreage, in ETJ or developed areas, etc. It's laid out in a flow chart. You can't miss it. This is a document meant to be used, not abused. And we need that clarity to increase trust in this city. So for those reasons, more persistent parkland dedication, sustainable use ratios, commercial areas that imitate the areas we love, a better transportation network, and clarity in application of our laws, I think we need to adopt this UDO. And finally, I would like to thank Ms. Soto and all the staff for all the work they have put into this project over the last several years, collecting and addressing the feedback of many, many citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mers. Councilman Lee, is there any other comments you would like to make, sir?
Second, wow. And wow. Bringing up new items not yet discussed among council, things like creating committees and all the rest of that kind of stuff that died, opens up another whole can of things that need to be discussed. I think what's before us is fairly simple, either yes or no on this. And you made a couple examples, and even though I hesitate, but not much, I was on council, as was Ms. McVeigh, when we redid parkland dedication and water rights and that so forth. What is now happening in Alsatian Oaks and the other developments done under development agreement flies in the face of what was in the subdivision ordinance. You couldn't have drainage ways, you couldn't have retention ponds, you couldn't have any of that, but yet we have it now. So please understand that when you get into the AZ, or the development agreement stage, everything's off the table, okay? Everything's, so that's what you're seeing out there, not what we have now. I would refute that the place type zoning UDO inhibits dense development. I don't buy that at all. And if you want the developer to do what you want him to do, he's going to want money from you, okay? He knows what it's going to cost to build what he has already been building. I mean, he's not an idiot. And he sees this development agreement and says, our corporal bill, let's put a hook in their mouth and tell them what we want. And we'll play them along until we get what we want. And we'll make the money that we want to make. You know, these people aren't stupid. And so, you know, I just boggles my mind. Anyway, I'm not in favor of paying developers to do things that just because we want it and the Castroville citizens are responsible to pay that bill. That's asinine in my opinion. That's asinine. And so they're going to build what they're going to build. We have our ordinances. If they want to be in the city limits, they'll have to follow them. If they don't want to be in the city limits because we've laid out all these stringent requirements to build new stuff, they just won't come into the city limits. Yay. We won't get money for parks. We won't get money for police. We won't get money for any of that kind of stuff. And we'll get to give them water and wastewater, which we'll put in at great expense. okay? They're not stupid. They're gonna make the money they're gonna make, or they're gonna have you give them money back, just like we did with Alsatian Oaks, okay? And so it's a no-brainer to me, and I don't have much left.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Lee.
Mr. Beck, don't say anything.
Please, nothing from there. Councilman King?
Yeah, Bob, you say that, again, as we said, right now, if someone wanted to build a silos neighborhood in Castroville, they could come in and do it because our subdivision ordinances allow these very, very small lots. And that was one of the reasons why we spent so much time and effort coming through this UDO, was to tell developers, no, you can't do that. So I don't understand why in the same breath you're saying you don't want to do this while the current laws allow it. The current laws allow alleyways. If we vote this down, which I suspect we're going to vote it down, I very much, like I said earlier, we got to have a plan. And if we vote this down, almost immediately, you need to, I'll support Sheena's thing about having a board. Let Sheena be on the board and with other citizens and staff. Because the other thing is, again, we've sat here and heard these conflicts that come up. And Brianna, I feel sorry for her because, she'll make decisions and, oh, well, it says she can do it here, but you can't do it here. And I could see the look of pure joy on her face by going through these flow charts when she was explaining that to it's either here or P&Z meeting. And again, P&Z recommended that we approve this. But the fact that it simplifies life so much so that the people who are asking the question, the developers and home builders and individuals and staff who reviews these things, it very clearly tells them the process and what they can do and can't do. And that's not what we have now. So if we're going to vote this down almost immediately, we need to have a plan where to go forward, because what we have now currently on the books, the P&Z and subdivision ordinances, they are faulty, massively faulty, unless we want stuff like we're seeing going over there east of us there in these new neighborhoods, which, I hope that never comes to us. And just because it's 1 foot outside your city limit, those neighborhoods are going to affect us. They're going to be eyesores to us. So if we let them come into the city or not come into the city, the fact that they're right up against us. So the fact that we can try to negotiate them, but when we're going to negotiate with them, we want to negotiate with them at the UDO level. We don't want to negotiate it at our P&Z level to give us higher quality neighborhoods. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilman King. Councilman Marchman.
Thank you. I attended every meeting as a citizen. I wasn't on city council. Wouldn't have gotten on city council if it weren't for that process, to be candid. And Brianna, I really appreciate the work you did. I know it was hard. But from sitting in the citizen's seat, what I saw was disingenuous, not from you, but from Simple City and how that process was conducted. It was disingenuous. It was disrespectful at times to all of us in context of how Matt Lewis addressed us, both in public and on email. And therefore, and also with all the changes, and we tried to come back, every single meeting, they would say they changed it, Matt Lewis, but it wasn't. And they would send the document at 4:00 the afternoon for a meeting at 5. So it appeared after a while, like, how many times do we have to do this? And that was very, very frustrating. It created a credibility issue in general. And there's a fundamental reason that we have a new mayor sitting right there in Mr. Alexander. And that it's because 75%, he won by 75% of the vote. And the single issue was the UDO. And so sitting here and representing District 2 and the other citizens of Castroville, how I think 75% of them do not want a UDO. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know better, because I don't. I didn't grow up working in city government, but I do have to respect the wishes of the people that put me here. And also I was one of them. So vote no for me.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Marchman. Ms. Martinez, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, like I said, if we get a group together, let them hash it out. But I mean, we can, if you want to use this as a supporting document for the CZO, plug in the changes that were, corrected to modernize it, whatever. And we can use the CZO, and then this document won't be a total waste of over $500,000. And we just got to remember, the reason why we went over the $500,000 is because the contract expired at the end of December, and nobody told us that it happened until March, and we ended up having to fork out extra money for the services between January and March. So and then we had problems with, they didn't want to give us administrative rights for this document that is our document. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, since we've had our 2 rounds, and I believe our code ordinances allows for 2 rounds of council discussions, we're now going to call for a vote on the motion. And I believe the motion is, and I'm not going to repeat it exactly, but I can paraphrase it, that is to repeal the zoning, the current CZO, Chapter 100 subdivision, Chapter 24 sign, adopt the UDO with the modifications. There'll be no ADUs and no
2.5.
in the 2 point, no ADUs in the 2.5, and there'll be no money in exchange for the water rights. That, I believe, that's the motion on the floor. And let's call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion failed. The UDO has not been adopted. Now let's move on to we're going to move from item C, we're going to move item D ahead of that, which is the development agreement workshop discussion and direction. I'm going to read this. So the reason this was moved up is I moved it up from where it was originally requested at the end, but I moved it up.
Do you want to skip the policy, the DA policy?
I've been asked by the attorney to move that.
Okay.
So we're going to move that. The development agreement workshop I'm going to read it and then I'm going to explain something. The city council and staff will hold a workshop discussion on the status of current and proposed development agreements. The discussion will include when and how the development agreement was negotiated and approved, the size of the development, the benefits of the development to the city, any cost to the city for the development, any entitlements for the developer not set out in current ordinances, and the cost for the same, and obligations of the developer under the agreement and status of same. The city council will also discuss the current review and approval process for development agreements, the applicable city codes for development agreements, and any recommendations for changes to the process to be brought back for consideration and adoption. There will be an opportunity for the public to ask questions when deemed appropriate by the mayor. Specific development agreements that may be discussed include Alsatian Oaks, Flat Creek, Heights of Castroville, Wild Ridge, and Victory Lane. Again, I just wanted to make it known to everyone, the purpose of this is to share with the public some of these development agreements online, but you have to read them to try to understand them. So this is an opportunity that, in my opinion, and actually after talking to the city attorney, the city did the majority of these development agreements in an executive session where it argumentatively, in some respects, should have been done open. But this is an opportunity to share the openness of these development agreements with the public. And I would turn that over to you, Scott.
You have in your council packets some summaries that were put together by staff of each of 4 different development agreements. So I'm going to walk through at a very high level what those are. I had planned, I apologize, my laptop, I can't access the agenda on it. So I've been looking at it on my phone, which makes it difficult because it's very small. No, it's all right. But I want to speak kind of to a couple of just really, really high level things. So there are 3 development agreements that have been approved by council, by this city, right? Not by this council, because one of them, was with Alsatian Oaks. It dates back to 2019, I believe.
Yes.
And then the other 2 that have been approved more recently are Heights of Castroville. That's depending on how it ends up finally getting platted, it's 136 to 160 home development, somewhere in that range. It's off of 471. It's right behind the Napa, right?
Napa.
What's that?
Right behind Napa?
Yep, right behind Napa on 471. And then the other one is Flat Creek. So there are 3, like I said, they've been approved. Flat Creek is immediately to the east of Alsatian Oaks, and it's approximately 600 homes. Again, depends on the final plat and their land use, et cetera, but it's somewhere in the 550 to 600 range. So these agreements, these approved agreements, are all on our website. They're public documents. If you search up development agreement, you should be able to find them on our website. So I want to make those statements first. In addition to those 3 in your packets, there are 2 other development agreements that are mentioned. One is Victory Lane. The prior council had an agreement with Victory Lane. It was never finalized. It got down to like the 11th hour, literally like they had gotten everything in place to annex into the city, and last minute decided, we're not going to do it. And mostly it had to do not with the council, but with TxDOT because of the level of improvement that was being requested by them. They're a 50-acre development. They are east of the car dealerships, so they're out on the very edge of the city. And currently, very, very edge, right? They'd have to annex in. So that's a 50-acre, mostly commercial development. I say mostly because there could be some mixed use or
That's currently outside the city?
Right. It's outside the city. And then the other one that's mentioned in your packet, only because we've received a draft development agreement, and that's a development called Wild Ridge. That is a D.R. Horton development. It is immediately east of the airport, shares a property line at the airport, and it's between what is the elementary property, or I'm sorry, the middle school property on 471, MVISD middle school property. It's between that and the airport on the east side of the airport.
Formerly known as Benham Ranch?
I don't know how it was formerly known, but it's a number of properties that were cobbled together. So I don't believe it's only the Benham Ranch or the.
It's that general area.
Yes.
It goes next to the airport.
And the initial proposed, and obviously when they initially propose things, it changes, but the initial proposal was for 800 plus homes there. There is another development that's known as MI Homes. That's the development. They have not proposed a development agreement, but they are looking at developing on the edge of our city. Right now, they're proposing half-acre lots, and that's on the old Decock Farms property. That property, if you weren't aware, sold to a national developer. So this development group typically entitles land. They don't actually build any of the vertical stuff or even in some cases any of the in-ground stuff. They just basically buy land, they entitle it, and then they go and sell off portions to various developers. I don't know the name of the group offhand, but they bought that several years ago. They've had that property is a little unique in that it shares a water and sewer CCN with the city of Lacoste. Now, Lacoste does not, to my knowledge, have any water or sewer assets anywhere in the vicinity of that property, but they do have a CCN up there. Now, they service the school. They made some arrangements with the MVISD to accept their sewer, their wastewater. But yeah, they don't really have any infrastructure to speak of in that area. Be that as may, they do have a CCN. So when the city, backing up a little bit, when I first was hired in 2021, at the time, there were 5 developers that were looking at us. 3 of those developers are ones I have just mentioned. Alsatian Oaks, Flat Creek, and what we call Victory Lane, that 50-acre commercial development. The other 2 One was a guy by the name of Trey Marsh, and he was out at the Decock property, hadn't bought it, but had it under contract, and he was looking at putting some, I forget what, anyway, it doesn't matter. He had a different product out there. And then the other one was what we called Cobblestone, and it was a Guillen Homes development. The Guillen Homes was going to be the builder, but it was a developer that was looking at developing the Gutierrez property. So this is a property immediately west of the airport. So those were our 5 developers that kind of circled the wagons, and the city, they needed everything tomorrow, right? When it came to water and sewer and everything they wanted. And they wanted to start getting agreements. And so we have, when you hear me talk about a 5-party agreement, I'm talking about those initial 5 parties. Again, of those initial 5, only 3 are still standing, and only 2 have actual development agreements with us. And that's Flat Creek and Alsatian Oaks.
Well, let me ask you a question on the 5 parties that joined up. Mr. Gutierrez, which is a lot of folks will know that as the Vanderwally farm, 250 some odd acres that he has had on that side, Cobblestone. He's one of those parties to that 5 that actually paid for part of infrastructure improvements. Am I correct? But then de-annexed from our ETJ.
Yeah, so a couple of things about him. So he was a party because we required, if the developer did not own the land, we required the developer the landowner to be a party to the agreement. So for instance, in the case of Flat Creek, they didn't own the land yet when we did that 5-party agreement. So Terry Dickerson, who did own the land, would also sign the agreement. But Terry Dickerson did not pay for the improvements on Flat Creek's portion. He did on his because he has the commercial frontage at the front.
Okay.
Gutierrez similarly did not pay anything to the city. Cobblestone made all those payments, but he is a signatory on the agreement. Yeah, he's the owner of the land. And you're correct. He later de-annexed not just that land, but he also owns a lot of land off of Lower Lacoste and kind of that wraps around our regional park. There's almost as much land there as there is by the airport. It's roughly 480
I just want
acres.
to make sure, don't get me wrong, we want to work with everybody as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
But by de-annexing out of the ETJ, he's not subject to any rules or regulations we have.
Correct.
And we don't get.
However, he's in the water and sewer CCN.
Correct.
So we are the water and sewer provider.
Correct.
But nothing else unless he decides to come back.
Correct.
Voluntarily.
Yeah, and he's going to sell the land. I mean, if you ask me, unless he develops it himself, which he's talked about doing.
Sure.
What the most likely outcome is that land will be sold to a developer like Guillen Homes, somebody, or a builder. And the builder, just like we're seeing with D.R. Horton, is going to have requests that may lead to some type of development agreement or annexation of the city or something else, right?
Okay. What I'd like to do is, and I think I have a good understanding, but I want to make sure the Alsatian Oaks generally, because that was the beginning one. Mm-hmm. There's certain argumentatively good and maybe not so good issues. First one out of the gate. I don't want to beat up the dead horse about the water rights. We've already gone through all of that. And I think we've learned a valuable lesson on that to move forward.
Thank you.
I think we have. I think also that even before the election, there were still people who were believing that developer was going to give the city $1.5 million for Little League. And it was later found out that, no, that's not a gift, that's a loan.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
no, that's not going to materialize.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't here during those presentations, obviously, those public presentations, right. and I've only heard anecdotally what was said publicly, but my understanding is that in the public portions of those meetings, the developer said things that and was not called to the carpet on them or clarified. And I don't know if that was just ignorance on the part of staff or council, but bottom line, when you look at the black and white in the agreement, which is a public document, you'll see that is a loan. That 1.5 million.
I guess what
as long as you trace it across 3 different
8%.
spread.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting, and I'm not trying to relive it and whatever. Sometimes there's lessons learned. I'm not here to criticize the developer because the developer is a businessman. He's going to get the best deal he can, and so I'm not going to sit here and relive all of that. I just believe there's some lessons learned in that whole process.
Yeah, because I.
Sometimes they're a little painful.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, that was the first big meeting after I got elected. And they didn't say it was a loan. They just said, yeah, we're going to give you 1.5 million for a sports complex. We're like, yeah, that's great.
I believe I know what you want, but I believe I just need a motion for a recess really quick.
I make a
I
motion,
wanna-
we recess for 5 minutes.
Okay.
At 7:56.
Second.
Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, we've got a 5-minute recess.
At what time?
7:56.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I thought the water tank at the high school belonged to their water.
It belongs to the school.
Their immediate water is sewage, so they run a single 6-inch line to the school.
It's a force main back to the city.
Yeah, it's like 6 days. So, but the water, the school owns it.
That's correct. They own their own
But
water
but
system.
ETJ, I mean,
It goes right next to the school. I mean, it's the school's carved out. The school's carved out. It basically goes down Rice Lane, it goes between, that's the marker. It goes all the way to the river.
no sewer and water.
Sewer and water. And all the way up to the
So
Jaggy
good, half
Ranch.
a good Harrison stuff down there. Half of it's in there.
Right. The interesting part, just history, when the school came to the city for water, they had old tanks. The city gave them big dollars in the tanks. The school said no, and they put their own system.
Got all the
When the
members.
school came to the city for sewer,
No, that's not us.
That's not y'all.
That's my neighbor. We're on the point.
I'm a big elk.
Oh, yeah?
Anytime I see an elk, whether it's made out of metal, plastic, or real.
Right, right. No, that's my neighbor. Well.
Yeah.
But that is the position where she's.
No. I did. And honestly, anybody
I'm just going to be very.
What's done is done. It's just we give reason to allow folks to have, hopefully walk out here with a better understanding about what. I like this. And I like that. I do like that. I'm here to relive everything. I will tell you one thing on top of it, and it's in your, it's online, it's not in your background. For Flat Creek, we have about $400,000 to the city, but in the written agreement it says after $500. That's what you get to. So they don't have to give you that until after $500. The $400,000 that they're going to give you for the parks. They don't give it to you until after they've got their subdivision basically $3/4 down. It's not to be ugly. What I don't want people to think is, where are we going to get that $400,000? Where are we going to get that? Where are we going to get that? That was the reason I brought that one up. No. I don't want somebody to misunderstand. There's a lot of misunderstanding. Even on council, there was misunderstanding. And I don't want to say, right, I don't want somebody to say, well, they're going to give us $400. But after they get to a certain build-out. So people don't run out and say, where's my money? Now, you got you got that. Just on a side note, did they get the water tied in Flat Creek today? Today. Okay, just thought I'd so that's my goal here is just to basically not only say it's online, we're not here it is. Ask people. You understand? Okay. That's what it is. Yes, sir. They did. Yeah, I'm glad you, Bob, needed a little pit stop. All right. I'll be right back. There you go. Bye, y'all. We ready? Bring my team back in. Mr. Dixon.
I'm sorry, this is on live stream, we don't need to yell it.
I was like, no, we don't need that ghost.
No,
in this
no,
room.
no, no.
We do not need that
No,
ghost.
no, no. Mr. Dixon, calling once.
I think he's back in his office, we're on live stream.
I locked him in his office.
Oh, I apologize.
I locked him in there. He's not coming back.
Hang on, and I did my. You don't need him. He'll be back in a second.
Start.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and call the meeting back to order. All right, and continue with this development agreement workshop.
What time?
It is, I always remember the time, 8:03 p.m. I just want to expand a little bit more. The whole purpose of this was, while these development agreements are online, it's just to be more open and transparent. It's different talking about it sometimes than it is simply just reading a document and trying to understand that. And I just want to be as much as possible, because I hear a lot, or we've all heard a lot about, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. I will tell you on a personal note, and of course it was corrected by the attorney working for the city, that, certain things were not made records until they were actually adopted, but I don't want to relive all that. We're good. I do want to make a question, and this is more for Scott, and it has to do with and I wish he was here.
Maybe I can answer.
I have a fly, and I'm sorry.
You
I
want to send the kid to go get him?
Is this Alsatian Oak?
Yeah,
or-
yes. No, no, I'm going to ask, no. Can you get him, please?
Brianna's gonna go get him. He's probably in the bathroom, which means the guy.
Well, okay. On Alsatian Oaks, I'm not here to beat him up, like I said. I think there was a lot of lessons learned on that one. On the Kingfish or Flat Creek, okay, I think there was some lessons learned there. I maybe not. I wasn't part of it, and I don't know what was agreed to, but I think maybe the city might have been able to get some land on it, because we gave away certain things about they're not required to do parks. It's in their development agreement. So in exchange for certain things. Alsatian Heights, or the one over there off of Provident.
The Heights of Castroville.
The Heights of Castroville. I understand that development agreement, but I disagree with parts of it that basically requires the developer to do our maintenance of our drainage system as part of his development. So I don't agree with that, but that's okay. These things are done. We go on. We have some drainage maintenance issues, and my question would be, when we make development agreements and we want certain things done, I believe we should put time specific on those things.
I agree with that.
So because, for example, theoretically, this developer can wait 5 years before they start working, and these folks that are having the issues continue to wait.
Yeah, in my mind, that was an oversight, because you're absolutely right. There should have been not only that, but like there should be a time for beginning his project.
On everything.
Yeah.
To begin construction and what have you. So these are lessons learned. I don't do y'all's. I mean, I do development agreements where I'm at. So anyway, question I have on the.
Can I speak to the drainage aspect of it? I know you don't want to rehash them, but.
Yeah, I don't want to go all of that, but real quick.
Sure.
I want to touch base on the one on the planned one, D.R. Horton there by the airport. Well, I don't know why I got flies in that.
There's a gnat.
But
Well, we know what they carry.
you pushing them all too. Okay. My concern on that particular development is that it's right next to the airport property. And I want to think maybe 3 years ago, the county judge, they elected to dissolve the joint airport zoning board.
It's gone.
And I believe that that's a requirement for properties around the airport. I believe we need to work with the county to restart that because these developments around there, they need to know up front and here it is. This is a clear zone instead of having to go back and argue with them that these are the FAA requirements.
So we do.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. So that is something that's been a constant conversation between Brianna and I and the county. We have reminded them from time to time because, again, we don't respectfully, we work for them and they don't work for us.
Right.
But we do tell them, hey, this is something that's really important. We need to get on this. We need to get on your agenda. We need to set up. First thing we want to do is set up a meeting with you all and just go over the proposed ordinances. But I think it's time, Brianna, for another presentation to the council because I don't think Houston or Bob have seen or Bruce, the new proposed, right? Yeah. I think that preceded them. It didn't precede you by much, but it preceded you. So maybe we need that presentation to you all just so you understand. It's a very quick presentation. It shows here's what we're doing. The whole concept was to minimize, based on all the public input and feedback, to minimize what we were requiring in the zoning around the airport to only what was basically considered the bare minimum. Now that's a challenge because as you may know, the FAA doesn't have bare minimums, but what we did is we went to the airport in New Braunfels and we looked at what they did, which is pretty minimalistic, and we applied that to our airport. And the only other change that has happened since then was our plan, and I think y'all were a part of this, our plan had a 5,000-foot runway eventually, and we've stricken that from our plan. We've said, no, we're never going to get to 5,000.
No.
Or, I'm sorry.
We moved it from
it had to
5,001 to 5,000.
No, it had a longer one.
Just
But
tell you, my whole
we took
point,
the longer one out and reestablished the one that's there.
my whole
I
point
apologize.
on this whole thing, when we're talking about development agreements, we have potential planned, proposed developments on 3 out of 4 sides of that airport property.
Yeah.
In my opinion, in many ways, we may be behind the curve on our airport zoning.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And
That's what we said.
we need to get on the ball.
Yeah, but we can only zone what we own.
Well, I'd be more than happy to
know
talk,
what's
I'd be
within
more than
the
happy to
city.
talk to the county judge also.
It's the
I mean,
county can't.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but it's a joint airport.
The county
So
can
the
zone.
county- That was why it fell apart, is the county by state law cannot zone.
Oh, I
No, they
understand.
can. They can zone they can zone because it's a county, an airport
It's a
based in a
joint.
county. So this is one of the few exceptions in
Brianna,
state law where both the county and the city can do the zoning around the airport.
Our FAA
Yeah.
person's back.
Yeah, our zoning, the county can zone only for airports. So that's, but it's better to have it as a joint thing because so we're in line. Because of course, half of it is in the city and then half of it is in the county.
And that's
Well,
the reason it fell apart is the county didn't support the zoning that was being proposed.
I-
They had to ultimately support it.
I don't want to get off on a tangent and talk about something that's not on the agenda. I want to keep this narrowed into the development agreements that are proposed in and around that property. And it's a thing that would impact those developments without going into great detail about that item. I just wanted to broad stroke it.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing us back on topic. I'll just tell you that we are, Brianna and I do, when we have these discussions with developers, tell them, hey, look, there's an airport here. And we give them an idea of what the code that's been proposed is so they can plan to that. Now, whether they do or don't is up to them, right? But we do make them aware of that.
The reason I asked, the airport also, I bring into the Flat Creek. I'm sure that's went through, but where the elevated tower is going to be is either in or very close to the flight path of the airport.
Yeah, so that all got reviewed by FAA
Okay.
already. that's been.
I just want to make sure when we're doing these things in proximity, we don't shoot ourselves in the foot
Right.
there. That's all.
And we've also discussed how new developed houses and everything, they have to have a document signed, the people that buy the house or what have you, that understanding that, hey, you're living near an airport.
Right. Like I say, I don't want to get drawn out in all the details. My whole idea here was to just to lay it all on the table. A lot of the stuff's online. People got it, but some of the stuff's not. And like I said before, the things that are protected by confidentiality, we need to talk in a closed session. But the things that are not, a lot of ways, in my opinion, old school thinking here that we follow our ordinance. We don't negotiate against ourselves. If a developer wants a development agreement, they lay it out in writing what they propose. Then we go through the process of considering it. We don't go to them. They come to us.
And one thing neat.
That's my opinion. That's my position.
One thing that we've done, the only agreement that we've done it with is the Alsatian Oaks. The developer had town hall meeting.
Sure.
Where citizens could come and ask any and all questions.
Sure.
Dispel any rumors and everything like that. So citizens felt like they had more of a say, get their questions answered and everything. Now, we haven't done it for the other development.
Right.
Or anything, but, and I'd pass it on, Herb Dyer had passed it on, that this was a great thing and citizens were welcoming of it because they could ask and they got answers.
I think it's a great thing, but I think those should be facilitated and run by the city.
Yeah.
And not directly by the developer, because the developer is going to, with all due respect, going to say and do whatever they can do for their best interest. But the city needs to facilitate so the city can say, okay, that sounds great, but this is what it's really going to be.
Yeah, no, the city was involved as well,
Okay.
the city staff.
Thank you.
It's just the developer was
Mis-
present.
Okay, let's go. Mr. Lee, do you have any questions on any of these?
One question.
The development agreement. So we're having this discussion.
Two people were deeply involved with Alsatian Oaks that submitted pages and pages of questions, and that was me, and a few things by Mr. Beck. And so, be that as it may, water under the bridge. I do not like the development agreement policy that we have here.
Which we're not
I
talking
think
about yet.
That'll come after
that is
this.
the agenda item, is it not?
No.
Well,
that one.
right now, what we
Public
went,
hearing?
no.
Workshop.
We went to talk to the workshop first, and then we'll go back to the actual development agreement policy.
How can you talk about the workshop on the development agreement without talking about the development?
I think, okay, I think the purpose, in talking to the attorney, the purpose of this work session was to seek ideas that might impact the policy. So if there are elements
Right.
that you think in these development agreements you'd like to see applied to the policy, I think that's okay to bring it up.
I think that is correct. That's the purpose, is to have the discussion first, maybe formulate some thoughts or questions, then go back and what do you want to do on the policy?
Right.
Based on.
But we are going to have a separate policy discussion as well.
Yes, we will. Right now, we want to focus on the actual development agreements, basically how they came to be, what's the good, bad, and ugly of them, and
Okay.
say it and move on.
Is this still my turn?
Yes, sir.
What I see is there's this time after time after time, we are on the hook to pay back money to people for things they've agreed to do. And none of them are explained in any depth. And I don't know that you want to go into depth on all these kind of things, but, each one of it seems like we're agreeing to give them back some revenue from some source in order to cover things. And I'm wondering, why is that? And some of these agreements, I didn't see a whole lot in there about water rights or open space and parkland and stuff like that. But it appeared to me that quite a bit of this stuff was things that they should be doing anyway. And so I really don't know how to blend my comments about these particular ones, because that stage has already left town pretty much. I just want to make sure that council and P&Z are involved in every step of this, and that nothing is agreed to without council and P&Z involvement.
Yeah, David, before I call you, Mr. Mers, let me just make one comment. I have talked to Scott on more than one occasion. I just want to make sure that all parties concerned are owning up to their obligations. Be it the
Yes.
city, be it the developer on all the agreements. Not sitting here trying to rehash them, just own up to what the obligations are at this time.
Yes, it's a challenge. I've shared this with you candidly. It's a
Yes.
challenge with the Alsatian Oaks agreement because there's a lot that's put on the staff to
Yeah.
track
Yes.
in terms of the revenues, et cetera, that we are owed them and the timing of those payments and what they have to send us, et cetera. But we are adhering to our portion and they are adhering to theirs.
We want to keep our house in order to be able to enforce anything necessary on.
Correct. I do want to clarify. I mean, each one of these agreements was one. You made a statement at the opening of this that some of these things should have been in open session. That's an opinion. The city. I just want to be very clear, so you do not break any laws by going into executive session to discuss these
No.
development agreements. Okay, just clarifying. I didn't say you said that, but I want to clarify that was the case. But it's a matter of opinion as to there are elements of these that could have been shared publicly, and then it's a matter of opinion whether they should have been. And certainly, this council is going to give staff and direction on what you want to see there. That said, to Councilman Lee's concerns, I think that there's a couple of times you've intimated, and I don't know if this is what you mean or not, that staff somehow has gone out kind of like on its own and made agreements with these developers, and that is absolutely not the case. Especially, I can't speak to Alsatian Oaks, right? But with Flat Creek, with Heights of Castroville, et cetera, every step of the way, the council was made aware of what was being requested, why it was being requested, and sought direction from council prior to going back to the developer to have the discussion. So the council was made aware every step of the way on these agreements and what was in the agreements, et cetera. So yeah, now the P&Z wasn't, because that wasn't part of the process. And that's something that I think could be improved if that's something that council wants to do.
Councilman Ramirez?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly comment on the Heights of Castroville.
Yes, sir.
I think that the development we're getting out of that one is one of the strongest ones we've seen out of these various agreements. It was the first one after I got on council, but I wasn't there to vote for it, so I'm not tooting my own horn. It has a good, highly connected street layout. It connects to both Provident and 471. It connects to Provident in multiple places, and it provides pedestrian connections through to Country Village and to some of the commercial development. I think that's really good. We managed to get them to put a little bit of commercial in there, which helps balance the city's revenues and the jobs to people ratio. And the layout, if you zoom out, is actually very similar to what you see west of the river. It's square blocks, and around the edges, they just face in towards those blocks.
Sure.
But overall, I think it was we ended up with a much better designed place than some of the other developments, and especially compared to some of the stuff we see like up on Petranco.
Great.
Now, I'm not a huge fan of how the drainage improvements in Country Village ended up tied to that development. At the time, right before or right after COVID, it looked like we were going to have a big building boom.
Yes,
so it would have happened right away, which would have been great. But as it sits, we're kind of in this awkward spot where to go and fix it ourselves, we just kind of lose money. But also, on the other hand, I don't think people would have appreciated the increase in taxes or drainage fee rates to cover the cost of that ourselves. I do think that the PID is a far superior funding mechanism to the TIRZ, because the PID ties the reimbursement for the infrastructure built to the residents of that development in the future, as opposed to making it something that the city loses out on. The TIRZ, tax increment refinancing zone, has the unfortunate side effect of cutting into the city's tax revenues in the future.
Yes, sir.
Which we will need to support those developments in the long run as they just become part of the city and our neighbors. So yeah, I think the layout of Heights of Castroville actually ended up very good. I think the mix of uses was good. I think the what we funded with the PID in hindsight was not a great idea. Don't have a whole lot to say about Alsatian Oaks or Flat Creeks.
Just to add to that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but every one is a lesson that we learn from and move to the next one.
Which is something we've heard repeatedly from this dais as the people on it shift back and forth.
And
And
it
we've heard
is.
it from
As
Dixon and the previous mayor.
we move
So
on.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to help you improve, so to speak, if I can. Councilman King.
Yeah.
It's a very loud throat clear.
Yeah, I heard that.
I wasn't on council when Alsatian Oaks, and when it first came up, what I heard what they were doing in council, I was in disagreement with it. And I started studying it. And again, in accordance with state law, they make these, they allow cities to make agreements with developers.
Yes, sir.
So the property out there where
Can you pull your mic back down? Because
the property out there where Alsatian Oaks was probably getting taxed at $100 an acre in the county.
Yep.
And not us. And it was, ranch land or farmland.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, we're going to bring this into the city, and now you all are going to start getting property taxes off of us and sales tax off the commercial and all this other stuff. But for that, we want to make an agreement that we want to put in our infrastructure. And you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 2/3 of it goes to them and about 1/3 of it goes to us on the property tax.
It's 80-20, I believe.
80-20 until they pay off this debt. And so there's a finite number and a finite year.
There's also years. So whether they're paid off or
Worst
not
case.
after a certain number of years.
Right.
Yeah. So in that respect, it didn't cost the city anything to get this future. So when you talk about us paying back to them, yes, we're paying back to them property tax that we never would have gotten if it didn't come in the first place.
I understand.
So we're giving that to them to put in the infrastructure that we didn't pay for the infrastructure. We're just giving back part of the property tax until these things are paid off. So when I heard all that, I said, well, I could agree with that deal with what city council did at that time. But since we've been on city council has talked about, they were the first ones out here. And they got the sweet deal, but nobody else is ever going to get a deal like they did because you needed someone to come to the plate first, and they were the first ones to come to the plate. So, but again, Flat Creek and the Heights of Castroville, those are, again, a PUD, or I guess, that's where, they can basically, people are going to move in there are going to have to pay for those improvements.
Right.
But they can't do those unless, at that time, state law said they had to make an agreement with the city to allow them to do it in the first place. So that was the carrot that we were able to get them to improve these improvements that David talked about, because what they could have put in there would have been absolutely a disaster because it wasn't in the city. And to get them to come into the city, so I think the city negotiated the Heights of Castroville quite reasonably, as well as Flat Creek. That's it.
Mr. Marchman.
I'm good.
Ms. Martinez.
Nothing to say.
Okay, anything else to talk about? Yes, sir.
Sorry, can I address the drainage?
Sure, please.
Because it's kind of weird, right? We have the offsite drainage for NP homes, and that was more of a fortuitous, opportunity, the way the city saw it. But in hindsight, again, you learn from each one. We should have put some time frames on it because at the time they're saying we're going to build in the next 12 months, and we really thought they were, and they didn't, right? And they haven't. It sat there forever. But that said, we had just gone through a planning effort for flood mitigation and drainage controls. We'd just done this. We had thought we'd actually sought to go and do a establishment of the bar ditch or the drainage ditch between the two country villages.
Yes.
And we got some bids back, and they were ridiculous. In our opinion, ridiculously high, like $250,000 from the guy doing the dirt work at Alsatian Oaks. And so somewhat naively, I thought, hey, they need dirt. There's dirt here. They can get dirt here and take it over there. And, this might end up being a great deal. We have all these big earth movers right there doing work right now. We might be able to get them. And we did. We reached out to them, and they said, yeah, we'd love to do that work. Here's your price. And it was ridiculous. So along comes this developer and says, hey, I want to develop this land. And we said, great. We have this. And we literally just finished the plan with K-Freeze on all of the different drainage projects. And those projects were identified in our plan, but they weren't super high priority, and we had no way to fund them at the time. We hadn't agreed to issue the drainage debt or any of that at that time. And so we said, look, here's some things that are on the periphery. They're off-site improvements, but they're on the periphery of your development, and it would really, help make your development more acceptable and more acceptable to your neighbors if you're doing something to improve their condition, their way of their quality of life by addressing these needed improvements. So we got him to agree to do all that at his expense. We don't pay him back. He's just doing those offsite improvements. So that's how those came to be. Now in hindsight, we should have put a time frame on there, and it does seem weird to have him doing those. Why isn't the city doing those? But it's because, well, we're getting it for free. I mean, we wanted him to do it.
Let me ask you a question on the drainage real quick. I'm going in a long drawn out thing. We can do this. Alsatian Oaks, that drainage ditch that begins up there by Miss Reed's property, Country Lane. It was built by the developer of Country Village all the way across what's now Alsatian Oaks, all the way to Flat Creek. They, as part of the development, they bought the land. They dedicated it to the city as a drainage easement. I know when I was here, we cleaned it out more than once. Are they cleaning that and reshaping it all the way through, or is Alsatian Oaks having to do it within their area?
Yes, Alsatian Oaks has to do their portion of it.
Okay.
And they have. Alsatian Oaks has already made improvements.
Okay.
They had to widen it and deepen it and do
I
something.
just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah. So this would only be to the edge of the
Okay.
Country Village portion. So it's that kind of that, yeah.
The Walmart, basically, property, or
I don't even think it goes that far. I think it's to the edge
behind
of
the
the
church.
Shearhart. Is it Shearhart's?
Behind the church.
The little
Grove.
gravel road.
Grove.
Church.
Groves.
property. The edge of Grove's property.
Yeah, the edge of the Groves property.
Yeah, and then you have like a 30-foot strip that's not in the city limits, and then you have the rest.
Right. Yeah, there's some stuff behind the church or something over there. Anyway,
I know where you're at. Okay.
Yeah, so they would improve that, and then there's some other improvement projects down Providence,
Okay.
across on 90, and TxDOT has, since we made that agreement, TxDOT has actually come in and said you need to make some improvements to our infrastructure as well.
Well, I just wanted to ask that too, because like when the Chevrolet dealer was built, beginning to Flat Creek, the city made them do a drainage study under TxDOT 90, under 471, and all the way out to where it fans out behind the airport to make sure that the drainage off that car dealership didn't have a negative impact on the TxDOT facilities or downstream. When we did these subdivisions, we required them to go all the way through the system.
Yeah,
Backed up.
yeah. My understanding is
We should, if we
yeah,
don't.
that's correct. But you're saying all the way behind the airport. I don't believe they can go.
Flat Creek goes down there, crosses Benderley property,
But do they
it
look
ends
that
up,
far out?
fans out, it reaches the river at Lacoste.
Okay. Because I know that was a big bone of contention was
Yes.
Flat Creek. There was a lot of back and forth between K-Freeze
Yep.
and the Flat Creek engineers about the improvements to their drainage that they had to make and
Okay.
what size their boxes were and because anyway, it came
We
down
always
to
told them match
where
up
the
with
data came from.
TxDOT and as a minimum.
But the short is, yes, we are requiring every developer who has an impact
Okay.
to go and do that level of study.
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? No? Scott, thanks for the information. Brianna, thanks. Like I say, our audience went away, so I guess they heard what they wanted to hear. I mean, I thank y'all for being here, but the whole purpose was here to just, here it is, folks. Here's your opportunity.
You can't say you didn't know.
Yes, sir.
Does a development agreement set aside the requirements of the subdivision ordinance?
Can I answer that one really quick?
No, I
Okay.
prefer to hear Mr. Dixon first.
Okay.
Well, you
It's up to you.
have a sneaky way of wording it. Yeah, because it doesn't set it. It shouldn't set it aside, right? It should take into account what the subdivision ordinance is, and it seeks to strike a balance between what the developer wants to do, what the city is able to enforce them to do, and what the state legislature, the rights and privileges the state legislature has given them. In other words, you're balancing their ability to disannex from your ETJ and do whatever they want in the county versus their desire to get a PID or get some other monetary trade-off, and then your ability to put as much into the requirement within reason, right?
Just short of them pulling out.
Just short of them pulling out.
That's right.
So yeah, you get them, and I don't think we've ever, frankly, I don't think we've ever put ourselves in a position of negotiating against ourselves. I really don't. And I think the debate, the question that's come up time and time again from Councilman Lee is, and it's difficult for staff to answer. We're not trying to be evasive. The question is, okay, does this new UDO? It doesn't matter anymore. We're not adopting it, but does this new UDO will it drive developers away? Well, I have conversations with developers every day, and we've made them aware of these requirements, and none of them got driven away. Right? They're all still at the table. So I don't think it's driving people away. Future legislation at the state level may impact some of those decisions, but I think at the end of the day, it's been my experience across the cities I've worked in, is what developers crave is a clear, consistent understanding of what's going to be expected. What will drive them away faster than anything, really and truly, is when there's goalposts being moved. When someone says, you need to do this. Oh, wait. Now we want to do this. Oh, wait. We've thought about it and we want this too. When they get that kind of interaction from cities, that gets out. And again, what I've seen personally firsthand is that will drive developers away faster than anything else. Not necessarily the expectations involved, even if the expectations are higher.
I've been involved in that when I was here, and I can cite certain businesses that the city, I believe, or at least did have design criteria for structures on Highway 90. And
There was,
yes, there were design criteria, and the city said, design it this way. And they came and they said, okay, well, we want you to do it this way. Okay. The city said, we still want you to change that a little bit more. And they finally said, enough's enough. I'm gone.
Right.
So basically, you went to it too many times.
Right.
So this along the same lines. Set your standards. They'll work with them as much as you can, and move on.
Yep.
Don't keep moving that goalpost. I agree with you on that.
Okay, what I thought I heard you say was that we do not have to follow the subdivision ordinance at all if we have a development agreement. And then, of course, the other part of the subdivision ordinance allows you to have a planned unit development, which you have a lot of flexibility to do things differently than what is required in the subdivision ordinance. And so what I'm convincing myself to be the case, which may not be, is that the ordinances we now have really don't make a damn bit of difference, because I can work with them and make a development agreement and be damned for the rest of it. And so I know I'm going a little bit to the extreme there, but thank you, Deborah. Anyway, that's been my argument all along. When we go this route, anything's possible. Anything.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, again, you've got some minimum standards that are we're in the UDO. You got minimum standards in your subdivision ordinance. It goes back to what I was saying. You're trying to balance what they want versus what the city has expressed that it wants in its subdivision ordinances versus what they're allowed to do versus the monetary benefits involved, right? So there are trade-offs, but it's not that you take it, ball it up, and throw it out the window and start from scratch. That's the whole point of what we will be talking about, the development agreement policy. I've been leaning and utilizing that as I have conversations with developers. When they say they want a development agreement, I say, well, it says here, but they don't want to annex into the city. In our adopted development agreement policy, it states we will not enter into a development agreement as a city unless you're going to annex in. Right. So I tell them that. I say, look, this is a non-starter. I can't even talk to you about what you want because you aren't doing, you haven't passed the very first hurdle that is the test as to whether or not this city will entertain a development agreement with you. So until you say you're going to annex in, I can't, it's not worth our time spending, any further discussion. So we do have, the policy actually does play a role, and it is both informative to council or to staff and to developers, and it does materially impact the outcome of those discussions. Like we lean on them for our jurisdictional authority, if you will, the staff does. And developers are relying on them to understand where the goalposts are. Right?
In many ways, a planned unit development or a development agreement are very similar in the fact that they set the terms of the development that may or may not be with your ordinance. It's an agreement between the city and this, but the city sets ground rules on how they want it to be.
Well, under a planned
yield on.
There is a very big difference.
I understand.
Planned
No,
unit
but-
development has strict, like, here's what can and can't be in a planned unit development. And that's really, I mean, that's set out, and there are no monetary benefits to it. It's just, if you want to do a planned unit development, here's the code that's allowable in a planned
But they're
unit
still
development.
negotiated agreements.
Planned unit developments?
They're not automatic.
Well, I wouldn't call them negotiated. They go through a planning process with planning and zoning.
I understand.
And to the extent that planning and zoning gets to weigh in on those items, then I guess you could call that negotiation.
But it's not an automatic.
But no.
That's my
So even after the development agreement is completed, we still have like our engineering standards and our subdivision standards that our engineer has to go back to. And Alsatian Oaks, Heights of Castroville, and Flat Creek did not have to go. Just because there's a development agreement, it doesn't make them not have to go by what's in our subdivision ordinance. And they did not have to go through a variance process, except for one thing. Alsatian Oaks did go through a variance process for...
It was type of home, like they wanted one of the variances they sought was
different facade.
The facade.
No, that's something different, because we can't regulate building materials. So that was something strictly within the development agreement. One thing, an actual variance from your subdivision ordinance was like the curvature, the radius for the curvature or something. That was the only one. Everything else was to your subdivision ordinance for those developments. And I'm talking like streetways, all the engineering stuff. So they are to your subdivision ordinance for design standards. So,
David?
I have two hopefully yes or no questions. I try to ask those and I don't seem to succeed very often.
Excuse me.
Can a development agreement specifically like loosen particular terms from our development ordinances? It can, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
No, that's correct. The city council can, in a development agreement, because it is the city council, can basically waive application of certain aspects of its adopted ordinances.
Certain things they can, certain things they
Yeah.
can't.
No,
that
in
answers
practice,
my
we really haven't done much of that at all,
Right.
as you just heard Brianna say. But yeah, there is.
Okay,
Yeah.
that answers my question. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I know that NP Homes had a PUD still as the way of applying the things that were negotiated in the development agreement to that development in accordance with our ordinances. Has that also been used on the other developments, Alsatian Oaks and Flat Creek?
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
those both went through the PUD process that went through planning and zoning and city council for approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So
Planned unit development.
To
Yes,
develop the
planned unit
PUD.
development PUD. Yeah.
And so just to summarize the results of my two questions there, some development agreements have negotiated specific variations relative to our ordinances, but then those are applied through the existing subdivision ordinance in the PUD process, basically.
Correct. And the PUDs, yeah, it's interesting because some people also see a PUD as somehow like it's a loophole, but actually, in actuality, a PUD is just a way of taking various components within your subdivision and trying to prescribe them all in one master planned community. So it isn't necessarily, while you could incorporate variances in a PUD, you could say this PUD is going to consist of these things, and some of those may be variances to what you would otherwise require. It doesn't de facto do that, right? And that's, again, how we are seeing these developments come to
It's purely
fruition.
at the discretion of the city. They can't show up and say, well, I have a development agreement, so that means, or I have a PUD, so that means. It's all on the city side to approve that.
I think the factor here is that in the ETJ, you can't regulate like lot size and anything of that sort, so square footage. And so the only thing your subdivision ordinance can regulate is like street width, sidewalks, open space, drainage criteria. But it can't regulate zoning, and it can't regulate any kind of lot size regulations of those kind.
But those elements are typically included in the development agreement.
Right.
So basically, this is one of those concessions that a developer makes willingly. They're basically saying, hey, we're going to be subject to these zoning regulations that we would otherwise not be subject to.
Right.
Because we're agreeable to them. We're agreeable to these lot sizes, et cetera. And it gives the city some certainty around those lot sizes. But where there's a rub is when you have, folks say, well, I think, the lot should be a half acre minimums. And I think whatever. people have their opinions about density and that kind of thing. But that's where the developer, that's where that give and take a lot of times occurs, is in those zoning aspects of the development agreement, where they're seeking certain levels of density, et cetera. And we prescribe in the development agreement, another great advantage to them is that we can prescribe design elements that we could in no other way be able to prescribe. Right. They're not permissible under the law, but for a development agreement that says, no, you're going to put this color shingle on it. You can get that precise if you want to, if the developer will agree to it, right? So it's pretty much anything they'll agree to.
All right. Thank you very much, both of you. That was very helpful.
Some of the standards, if you look back at cobblestones proposed, they were very specific.
Okay, I think we've kind of covered a lot of that, and we'll just end it at that. And let's move on to,
7C.
there's no real direction coming out of that, so we'll just move on to item C. Discussion and appropriate action to modify or discontinue the City of Castroville Development Agreement policy. I think there's a proposal, I don't have it right here, I'd have to turn to it, that staff has proposed to send development agreements to P&Z.
Yeah, so that was just something that we've heard a lot of, and so it's not in the current policy. I think it's in there as a recommendation, but yeah, again, we didn't know really what you want to do with it. The world is your oyster as far as the development agreement policy is concerned, and what changes you want to make. The only change we kind of were aware of is this desire to make sure, as you heard Councilman Lee state, that everything goes before P&Z, that they get an opportunity to look at it.
Right. Now, I'll just cut to the chase really quick. I was on the P&Z when this development agreement was hashed out. And I won't name any names or point any fingers like other people do, but I know I got very much told that P&Z, council makes the decision, P&Z doesn't, which ultimately that's correct. Mm-hmm. But P&Z plays a vital role in review and recommendations. So I firmly believe that as much as legally possible, I'm not talking about items protected under
executive session
privileges on those, but things that are not protected concerning development areas, I believe they should all go to P&Z to flesh out anything and make a recommendation back to city council. That's my position. That's the way it used to be here. That's the way I believe it should be here. It gets the P&Z more actively involved in exactly what their role is, planning and zoning, in dealing with development. That's my position. Sheena, do you have any comment?
Nope.
Houston?
I agree.
Councilman King?
I agree.
Councilman Murs?
I'm going to talk for like 2 minutes. It won't be as long as it
Okay.
So some of the high points here I'm going to pull out of the development agreement policy are going to sound very familiar. As Mr. Dixon said, it does require annexation into city limits before we'll even talk about anything else, and that is good.
Yes.
But also, it requires a well-connected street grid from developers, the same size as the one Castro laid out. And I think that is of immense benefit to this city moving into the future. I believe that the current version of the development agreement policy requires them to include both a commercial area, a commercial core, and residential areas, just like the development that Castro laid out. I think that is a huge benefit to the city in the long term to have some of those hubs distributed throughout the city where people can get there without having to pile in their cars and then crash onto 90. And it also gets much more specific about what publicly dedicated areas should look like and what should be able to be put on them.
Sure.
I am not very attached to like material requirements or the facade roofline variation, at least not in their current form. I don't remember if it specifies whether we'd prefer to do PIDs or TERSs, but I already talked on that.
Yes.
I would recommend that if we are, I'm sorry, I keep looking over there. It's just, I look off to the side when I'm talking. There's no one over
there. There's no one there.
The ghost.
But
he's looking at Castro for inspiration.
Castro, yes. I don't know which one of them is Castro, but I'm sure it's one of them.
The one on the left.
Okay.
the bald guy. The guy looks really
Who's
dour.
it?
But I think that if we're going to put planning and zoning in the pipeline as necessary before a decision is made, it should be phrased as instead of requiring them to make a recommendation, require them to have a public hearing and a discussion, and then optionally make a recommendation. Because we've been in situations before where essentially people on planning and zoning attempted to take away the option of the city council by refusing to take something to discussion or make recommendations on it. And so I think we should be careful about putting mandatory things that could become speed bumps and obstruct the duly elected representatives of the city from making decisions that they feel are in the best interest of the city.
And for the record, David, that's also your professional city administrator and attorney's advice.
And what is that?
Okay, cool.
Repeat that to me again.
That
Do
we
exactly
should not
that.
make it
Be
a
very
required
careful
step.
when devising this policy that you're stating that you want it to be sent to P&Z for recommendation, but that you still leave yourself the option to act on it with or without a recommendation from P&Z. Because I've also seen situations where it wasn't malice on the part of the P&Z, it's just they couldn't come to an agreement on even a recommendation on different items. I'm talking about different cities, not here, not this lovely Castroville.
Oh, no, I don't think P and Z should be able to hold something up from the city council.
Correct.
But I
That's what we would advise.
but I do believe they need to be involved in the process.
Correct.
I agree with that.
And I think that's what we're saying is
Okay.
involved in the process, but be careful how you do it from a policy perspective.
No, I
Make
understand that.
sure the council retains its authority as the ultimate decision maker with respect to development agreements.
I have a problem with that. I just believe, I don't think they should come direct to council. I think should go to P and Z to flesh out anything and then come to council. That's my position. Bob, Councilman Lee?
Well, my thing is marked up like a paper sent to the professor. I'm not against development agreements. Okay?
No.
What I'm against is getting into a situation that is detrimental to us financially, unless we have weighed every possible in, out, up, down, left, and right to say the thing that we're willing to do is not really part of what they want to do, but us helping them do this thing that is important to us is worth something to us, okay? And what I haven't been involved in any development agreements. I initially met with Alsatian Oaks when they came here 12 years ago or so and talked with those guys and saw their plan, which looks remarkably like the plan they put in place, by the way, regardless of any input we might have had. But I would traditionally, my experience is a builder comes to town, developer comes to town, they come to the staff and say, here's our ordinances, here's the timelines, here's normally the process that we go through in order to work with you as a developer, okay? Here are the requirements, here are the fees, all that kind of stuff. And look at what it is that they are proposing to do, okay? And take that proposal of what it is they want to do, and at that point, bring it to probably council first, and maybe P&Z, have the determine and see, here's what they're proposing, here's how it fits with the things that are acceptable to us for a development in this community, and then look at that and say there are things that need to be or would benefit the city overall if they were included in this development. And maybe it's extra streets, maybe it's something else. The developer doesn't have to do it. He has no incentive to do it, but it's important to us because it may have an impact on something next to it or the future. And let council then determine, maybe you did it already, I haven't been to one. Here's how far we're willing to go with that, or what other kind of trade-offs might we make in order to get to what works for him and works for us. And that's probably what you're doing already.
Let's say that you just described the policy. There's a lot of back and forth.
Well, let me ask you this question on that too. Bob, I'm sorry I don't interrupt you, but I'm going to ask.
Go ahead, everybody else does.
When you have a subdivision, I guess former Mayor Schroeder referenced this one, and I may be wrong, but the Country Village Estates or whatever, the other one, the Upmore Homes. okay, that they followed the ordinance. They didn't get a development agreement, they followed it.
That's
So-
correct. And their
so-
second
so
phase,
Does that
that's,
go to P and Z and back, or?
their second phase, which they're actually going through right now at this point. Yeah, so they already, because it meets all the ordinances, they didn't have to ask for a variance, and they
Right.
didn't need a development agreement. It's already within the city limits.
Right.
It will go through planning and zoning and city council for preliminary plating, and then once it's constructed for final plating.
And that's, okay, I got it. I guess I'm asking on the development agreements, follow the same, similar process to involve the P and Z. Is that wrong, or?
Not at this point. We haven't done that to this point because typically in order to enter into development agreement, the property has to be in the ETJ. It can't be within the city limits. So that's why that's different.
Okay, I wanted to ask that.
Just want to mention the fact that the word should is probably the most used word in this document other than the. And so 99% of this basically tells the developer, this is what we'd like to have. All of it's negotiable. And so, streets, lot size, you name it, it's all should, which carries zero legal weight.
Well, we
It was
changed.
done, that was done on purpose.
Yeah, I was saying, we changed it. It was shall, and we changed it to should,
Yeah.
based on council and.
That was done on purpose to leave everything open for.
Right.
So, sir,
No, I wasn't.
Councilman Lee.
I guess so what we're talking about here is the consensus, it appears, is that send the development agreement policy back to staff to have them modify it to say that it's going to go to P and Z first with legal language. And then that would be go before the P and Z and see what they think about it, and then it'd come back to council for adoption of it.
That, if there's no other changes, then yes, you've asked.
I'm fine with that. Is there any objection to that?
No.
You-
I have a whole bunch of markups, which I really prefer not to go through tonight. You know, and how about I get with you and talk about the markups?
We have a general consensus and we can go from there. And
Well,
you can walk about.
I do have a little bit of concern because Bob Lee has some other concerns.
Yes.
Councilman Lee, on this policy. If those concerns are in addition to, there are a bunch of policy level decisions, he wants to change this development agreement policy, then I'm going to have to bring it back to y'all, but I can do that. I would rather do that with the rest of the council, because I don't want this to be a situation where Bob Lee comes in and says, okay, they said do this, but I want you to do this, 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 and this, and this.
Right.
So I have a suggestion.
Yes.
5 of the people up here sat through a joint planning and zoning several joint city council planning zoning meetings to create the current version. If you have a bunch of specific changes, would that be the most appropriate way to handle it? To schedule one joint meeting where we go through changes that people want to propose?
I don't have.
Many of these could be explained to me in a way that I go, okay, that makes sense.
You could designate me in a committee. With him
Absolutely.
Okay. David just volunteered to explain it all to you, Bob.
I've just appointed a committee of y'all two to hash that out. In the meantime, let's send it back and let's talk to P and Z about.
Yeah, I don't think we need a joint meeting with P and Z if it's just this one change. If it's more in depth, then we might.
Well, what I heard was we'll make a change. We'll take it to P and Z. We'll get their opinion of it, and then we'll bring it back to you. And in the intervening time period, we'll see if Bob has any additional changes he'd like to bring to council after talking to David about them.
Perfect.
I don't want to do that.
Oh,
you don't want to talk to David?
No, I do not want to go over this with him.
Fair enough.
Okay. Who do you want to go over with?
Huh?
Who do you want to go over with?
Would you like to go over it
Mull
with?
that over. I'll get back to you.
Bruce might go over it with you.
You
were on P and Z?
Yeah, I was. Would you like to go over with Mr. Marchman, who's the liaison for P and Z?
I can do that. Well, some of my concerns are upfront. We ask them if there's any incentives they want. Okay.
Right.
To me, I would never bring that up as, is there something we can give you money for in order to do what we want? I mean, that's kind of like, open your mouth again. And so I wouldn't have that kind of language in my development agreement that leaves it open to them to dream up something that they know.
Well, I think that's naive. They're always going to want something. And that's usually why they're coming to the table. So you want to set that bar early and say, because you already, that the policy will illustrate what you are and are not willing to agree to anyway. And you aren't shooting yourself in the foot by that. You're not saying, hey, you're going to get all these things. And I don't think you're negotiating against yourself by making developers aware of what you're willing to give them, right? Whether it's 380 agreements or things of that nature. Because, in part because those rules, that toolbox, if you will, the law that allows us to do that is very well established and very well known by these developers. And they don't need you to tell them that you might give that to them. They've already worked with 18 other cities. They already know what those 18 other cities did and didn't give them. What they really need to know from us is what do we want, right? And then they're going to say what they want back. And so I don't think that weakens your argument.
See, some of those things don't cost us a penny, those concessions, but it just says that we are knowledgeable enough to know that this is going to be a discussion on both sides.
You're waiting for me to say something.
No, I think we already need a.
You want to work with somebody with your issues?
Well, let me just ask it this way. Are the rest of you happy with the development agreement as written?
No,
The policy.
it's not mine.
Well, you were in the P&Z when it was approved.
I
Did you vote against it?
Yep, I didn't support it then. I don't support it now.
I thought you told me this document was ages old, this development agreement.
No,
That's why I
it's
asked,
just
were you not at
developed
the meeting?
within the last.
I had no
I,
involvement.
I still have a fundamental difference of opinion that the no matter how great they've loaned their things, no matter how long they've been doing them, they should come to us and ask us or what they want. And then we come back and says, propose something to us instead of us just saying, this is what we'll give you if you do this. I think they should come to us and ask us for that and we say, yes, no, this is what we want for this.
To me, you need to, if we go in there with a minimum bar, we're not negotiating here, we're negotiating here.
But I believe the minimum bar is the subdivision ordinance.
Amen.
Boy, this ain't,
Period.
this ain't it's leaps and bounds
That's
above
just-
the subdivision ordinance.
You think?
Yeah.
It reads like a mini UDO. Every house is
Which
assumed
is
to have
leaps and
an
bounds
every-
above.
It has zoning aspects in it that would not be applicable or enforceable in the subdivision.
Okay, you're automatically approved for a accessory dwelling unit. That's in here. We don't want your garage in the front unless you do these things. I mean, there's paragraph after paragraph after paragraph that read like the neighborhood development in the UDO.
Yeah, because it was intended to be a stopgap to the UDO. There are changes that may need to be made.
I could care less if it puts an ADU in some new house east of town, if that's what that developer wants to put.
So I finally got you to admit that we really don't give a damn what they do out there.
No, if that developer wants that kind of neighborhood, Alsatian Oaks didn't want that, Country Village didn't want
I
that.
understand that.
River, they don't want ADUs in their backyard, but other developers might want to have a mother-in-law's
Then let
house.
them ask that. Don't just grant it. This grants it to them automatically.
I think it has to come back
That's
to
what I
you.
Huh?
I'm assuming the agreements all come back to the council for y'all to approve.
They do,
But you
but the
already-
policy states certain things. So he's not wrong.
You already told them right here that it's.
There are, I want to be clear, and just being clear with you all, like the development agreement policy, and I should have probably introed this when we opened the item. This policy was developed as a stopgap measure recommended by staff and our consultant at the time.
Right.
As a stopgap measure between when the UDO would eventually be adopted and now, and that time period, to be able to give these developers something. And so we developed it with a lot of input from both public and P&Z and council. But now that, as of tonight, UDO has not been adopted and doesn't like it will ever be adopted, then there are elements in this, like ADUs and some other things, that were integral to the UDO, which is why they're in here, that you all as council should look at and consider and say, is this still appropriate? Do we still agree with this or not? Staff feels like, the only change we recommended was putting it before P&Z, because that's the only thing we've heard consensus on. Everything else is really something you all need to talk through. But Bob's not wrong. I mean, it has ADUs mentioned in there because at the time
It was a stopgap.
That was a big issue.
With the
right?
UDO.
Made a lot of discussion.
She said alleyways, don't like your garages in front. 5 feet minimum setback on the front of the lot. I mean, just that kind of stuff is the same kind of stuff we just voted down.
Yeah, he's not wrong about that. So there's probably.
That's why I don't like it.
Maybe what I would suggest, maybe is provide your comments, Councilman Lee, too, so that we can share them with the rest of the council and then put it on for future discussion.
Okay.
Will it make a difference in the next month? Probably not.
Read the recommended motion.
Sure.
Table it.
Well,
If it's just
well-
consensus, they know where they're going.
well, I mean, we could do it as a discussion, appropriate action to modify or discontinue, or we can do the proposed motion, or we can just move on, can't we, with a consensus?
Nobody makes a motion, you can move on.
David wants to make a motion.
I wanted to read
Councilman Murs, please make a
I
motion.
move to amend the development agreement policy to include a requirement that a formal recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission be obtained prior to the item being presented to the City Council for consideration.
I want to be clear
Yes,
that
yes.
that recommended language could create situations in which P&Z holds it up.
Okay, can
So
I
think back to
can I
your-
try an alternative phrasing then?
Please.
I move, well, staff said, so I wasn't sure if the phrasing of that motion was.
That's why we have the attorney here tonight.
Appreciate that.
I move to amend the development agreement policy to include a requirement that the Planning and Zoning Commission have the opportunity to provide a formal recommendation prior to the item being presented to the City Council for consideration.
There we go. Have a motion. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to, you want to read that again, please? But basically, we
I'll read it
modify
again,
the development agreement
and I'll send you the text.
yes, I got it. That it be presented to planning and zoning for an opportunity to provide an input to the city council prior to adoption. Okay, motion made, seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, P&Z cannot have, according to Deborah,
Well, I said, I don't know.
executive session. Can P&Z have executive session?
No. Well, I want to make this clear. This is not intended to send anything that requires confidentiality or executive session to the P and Z. That's a city council
So
action.
did it come with a complete picture then in order to make a recommendation to council?
It sounds like essentially this would happen after negotiations are tentatively done, but before it
See, I
comes
need
to
your
city
help on that
council.
one because P and Z does not have the executive session and I want to
So
reserve.
development agreement negotiations is specifically listed as an executive session item. And so that's where, to Scott's point earlier, that often they occur in executive session to keep the details private for the time being so that it can be negotiated and worked out. However, that doesn't have to happen in executive session.
Right.
It's just typically recommended. And so if the council wants a policy that it's a free open season on negotiation and to not have that initial negotiation behind closed doors, that is a choice made.
Well, see,
if I
with
may,
all due, one
I made
more
the
thing,
motion.
one more quick thing. With all due respect, I have a difference of opinion from Dan. Dan actually told me that the bulk of the development agreements need to occur in public view and only things protected by executive session, high level, certain parts are executive session. But there are certain parts that are subject to open.
Yeah, the same thing said a different way and a
Okay,
little more
right,
precise.
right.
Yes, and so that's correct. However, particulars may be negotiated in executive.
I got it, but not everything has to be.
Correct.
Okay, that's my point is protect what needs to be protected.
Is that a decision you want to give to P&Z?
No,
So,
I don't know.
So
David, why don't you have
It's right now, it's in the middle of his
recommendation
motion.
how to work this for us at the next meeting? How to have P&Z involved in appropriate parts.
Yeah.
Other parts that need to be done by us, be done by us. I mean, you think about what it is that P&Z is interested in looking at. And, what do we want them to vote on? And so identify how.
Technically, right now, David's in the middle.
Hang on a second. I got to ask you because I played this earlier. We have a valid motion and a second, and I've read it out. So it's a discussion item. So we need to vote on that to move on or
I
to.
haven't heard a second, I'm sorry. Did anybody second his motion?
I second.
He seconded
Okay,
it.
I just didn't hear.
Motion made second, and I read it back out. So basically, that's a discussion. So we have to,
So y'all are in discussion until discussion is.
right, but if we want to change that at all, what do we have to do?
What we did earlier, which would be the
Motion to amend it, second it, vote on that, and then we can scratch it.
Yeah, so could I just,
Can I call a question?
as part of discussion, could I just briefly explain what I had in my head when I read my motion?
Sure,
Okay,
discussion,
thank you.
yes, sir.
So when I made this motion, what I was envisioning in my head is that Planning and Zoning Commission would look at it somewhere after negotiations. We think negotiations are done. We send it to them. They get a chance to comment on it before we adopt it.
Before it's finalized.
Before adoption.
Right.
Right. So like consideration doesn't mean city council's seen it and thought about it. Consideration, when I was phrasing this, I thought meant we're actually taking a vote on approving or rejecting it. I can, you're still making a face.
But it sounds messy, because when you're already that close to adoption, and this is just my personal opinion, and it's, let's just say planning and zoning, you've gone through all these negotiations, and then planning and zoning says, no, they're only giving you 5% open space and we want 40. Like, are you gonna change it? Like, does it change what you're gonna do at that point? So, or is it just a motion to get it through planning and zoning? Because then at that point, it's just a motion to get it through planning and zoning, what people didn't like the last time, because they said that about the PUD.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe it's getting the, planning and zoning should be looking at planning and zoning, not development language, TERS and PID and all that stuff. So maybe it's sending the site plan to planning and zoning, or sending those kind of things to them, not every aspect of it.
Well, I'm just,
Land use planning and-
I'm just doing a balancing act in my head, because, and I know you're going to answer this, you're going to say they're different, but subdivision, development, to me, they're different names, but they're the same thing. P and Z sees this, but P and Z can't see that.
No, that's why I'm saying that that's what I'm saying, is that I think if you do want them to see what's happening within the development agreement.
Before it's approved.
Yeah, before it's approved, then it needs to go to them earlier, because if you're already at that last stage where it's like right before adoption, then it kind of gets like where that PUD, remember the PUD plan? Everybody was mad because it had already gone through the development. You're almost to that stage again, when you should have it more towards the beginning, but maybe just for site planning.
To be clear, that's why, I mean, it does get convoluted pretty quickly. This is why the DA policy was put in place, because how these things start, it always starts with staff. If you look at the policy, it says they will present a plan to staff. They'll have an initial meeting with staff. And the whole intention is not to give staff all the power, but so that if staff is sufficiently informed of what council and P&Z are expecting, then we can be empowered to have some of those preliminary discussions with them and iron out most of the details that then go to P&Z and council. The concern, and that's where this policy is important, because there are aspects in that policy, like some of the things that Councilman Lee read off, that if we do want to change those, staff needs to know that, because we would prefer to let the developer know that, so that we don't get too far down the road, exactly as Brianna stated, too far down the road with them in a negotiation on some element that we believe has been defined in the policy, but then when it gets to P&Z, they say, no, you know what? Instead of block breaks at every 300 feet, we want, or every 600 feet, we want them at every 300 feet or whatever. Something that might be material to the developer, but that wasn't clear in the policy.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Understand P&Z cannot make a decision or recommendation on anything that isn't in an ordinance. Right?
What? No, they can make a recommendation on whatever you want. You can.
But they've got to know how to evaluate what they're looking at.
Well, I'm just saying, what you just stated. You asked, is that correct? And no, that's not correct. You can ask them, what flavor ice cream do you like? I mean, you can ask them whatever you want. They don't have to. It doesn't have to be stipulated in state law. They're a recommending body.
They have to understand what they're looking at and what it is they're trying to make a judgment on.
It would be ideal, yes.
Yes. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
And so, they just got to flip it around. That looks like, corporate memory resides in people that stay here forever and ever and ever. And that's why one of my goals
Okay,
was to
You-
have
you-
P&Z involved in understanding how this stuff works,
Excuse me.
and what's in it.
okay, Houston, your turn.
I'd like to make a motion to take.
We have a motion.
Yeah, we hadn't voted on
Well,
this motion,
I understand,
You
but
can call the question.
I can call the question.
and that stops discussion, but then you can make your.
You vote to, you vote.
Then we got to
to-
vote on that motion, sorry.
Or if you make a motion,
a table,
No,
Motion-
call the question
motion
is simply a call to question and you
Table.
take a vote. Yeah, you just take the vote.
It stops discussion.
and you don't need a second, it just have to
No.
take a vote.
Correct.
So you can vote this down and then
Make another motion.
suggest something else.
Okay.
Or vote for it.
So I'll reread it. I move to amend the development agreement policy to include a requirement that the Planning and Zoning Commission have the opportunity to provide a formal recommendation prior to the item being presented to the City Council for consideration.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Is that 2 nays to 1 aye?
Okay.
2 abstentions or?
I hadn't heard.
Still thinking.
What does that mean?
1 to 2 to
I
2.
wanted to see it, but it depends on.
You know-
Let's see it. See, you.
We can't vote. I'm gonna vote nay.
Go ahead.
One
All
aye,
right, so
four
1 aye, 3
Motion-
nays,
Motion fails.
4 nays.
Now,
1 aye, 4
Can I
nays.
make a motion? So we're making a motion. Basically, I recommend that staff
turn this over to staff to
turn this over to staff to, to recommend a policy back to us that we can forward on to the P&Z for their comment.
based on the discussions this evening, prepare.
Actually, back at,
Yeah.
that, I make a motion that we direct staff to, in discussions with P&Z, to come up with a modified language to the document.
So your motion is to direct staff to review the development agreement policy with the P&Z and seek recommendations for any desired changes.
Including, how you'd
Yes.
include them into that submission.
Just
You said it correctly.
any desired changes,
Okay.
I think.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to
Direct staff.
direct staff
staff.
to work with the P and Z with recommendations on any changes to this policy and bring it back to city council.
Right. And I
Okay.
think, I'm just going to, yes. So do you have a motion second? You're going to vote and then I'm going
Any
to.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right. So.
Don't tell us we did wrong.
No, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, though. I think in light of the vote that the council took tonight with respect to the comprehensive plan and the UDO, we will, Brianna,
Do
look
that
at
next.
the
Yes.
development agreement policy and highlight those items that were really specific to the UDO, and then seek P&Z's affirmation of whether to keep those in or not. And I think that'll address some of Councilman Lee's concerns.
Amen.
And then we can also bring up this other item that was discussed at length, which is how and when to involve planning and zoning.
Sounds good. That's all within the motion.
Okay, we're done.
Go come back.
Ma'am,
Not done with
if
the
you
meeting.
would like to leave, you can, because we're not going to, we've got a couple more items, but you're welcome to stay. Really, I don't. I have the items E and F, where we're
It's City Hall and City Hall.
City Hall, roof replacement and
And then
design.
future agenda items. I think we're.
So, but you're welcome to if you want, but I'm just offering it to you.
No procedural gymnastics past this point.
But thank you very much. Thank you very much for this evening.
Thank you, Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to move on to item E.
Be careful.
We're
Thank you very much for being here.
We're too late here for me. I'm running past my time here.
Yes.
Discussion and appropriate action to award a contract for service for the design and construction of City Hall remodel and potential future library expansion.
I'd like to see if we get through this agenda before Natalie's actually done packing up. That'd be amazing.
Before who? Oh,
Natalie's
well,
done packing
well,
up.
I'm going to tell you right up front. Let me make sure I got this correct. Is yes, we said go through everything, and I think last meeting we were going to seek a motion directing you to negotiate a contract and bring it back to us.
Me and the committee.
You and the committee. I
Right.
think that's where we're at. Is because through the Professional Procurements Act, you interviewed, you selected a candidate,
Mhm.
And now the next phase is negotiate a rate and then bring it back for a contract. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So we're at the point to authorize you to with the committee, to negotiate a contract.
That's correct.
Anybody
Is
want to
this-
make the
wasn't this
motion?
the one where Bob asked, since he didn't get the documents, that
There was no backup document.
There was no backup last time,
No.
and so it's in your
And so
agenda now.
we didn't
This-
vote on it that night. We said we'd vote it at this
Right.
meeting.
Right.
Right.
Same discussion, but now everybody's had the documents.
This,
Right.
this does not, this still does not commit the city, the city to expend funds. It's just moving to the next phase of negotiating a contract.
That is
Correct.
Motion made, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make it. I move to approve the selection of Pew Constructors and Ford, Powell, and Carson as the city's design-build team for the City Hall project, and authorize the design-build selection committee to negotiate a scope and fee to advance the project to 30% design with an estimate of probable cost. Is the recommended motion.
I second.
Motion made and second, and I will read the recommended motion into the record. Okay?
He already did it.
It is-
No, he did it.
But
He
I,
already did it.
You don't have to read it again.
but procedure is, I'm supposed to take the motion.
No, you don't have to.
second, and I'm supposed to read it to open a discussion.
No, you don't have to.
No,
Supposed to.
Once it's been read.
No, he made the okay, never mind.
Anyway, that's
I
all right.
won't go there. I'm trying to follow a Robert's Rules of Order.
I
guys.
appreciate
Technically,
that.
you would first read it first to open up the thing,
Oh.
and then David all had to say is, I make a motion.
Yeah, you've
and
read the item, the motion.
Thank you.
You
Thank
identify
you.
who made this
Thank
first and
you.
second, then they vote.
Thank you. Anyway, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Do you want to go back?
I don't.
Okay, okay.
Good.
Motion
I
carries.
didn't know if Bob wanted to.
Next item, discussion appropriate action to award a contract for TPO roof replacement at City Hall.
Get them to get done.
Do
Do you understand why this is on the agenda, the way it is?
I ask, it's over your limit,
Yeah.
bottom line.
And because you've just approved getting Pew Constructors to look at City Hall, and even though you haven't committed any funds and you haven't said you're going to do the project, I didn't want us to do just do the roof, and it's not, it's the whole roof, right? When Pew Constructors might say, well, that was money wasted because now we're going to have to do some other things that are going to impact the roof. We're going to have to get into it because we got to install this or that or the other thing. I don't know. So I thought, anyway, I didn't know how the first item was going to go. Now that y'all have voted on that item, my recommendation would be to let us go to Pew and talk to them about what is needed on this roof and see if they would recommend we go forward with that project or not.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question when you start talking about stuff about this buildings. And Councilman King's going to correct me if I'm wrong. In the past, everything we did to the exterior of this building, we had to go through historic commission.
Yeah, I don't think you
Is
have
that
to do
true
it
or
for
not?
Yeah, I know, but I don't think you have to do it for the roof.
Huh?
I don't think you have to do that for the roof.
Everything other than maintenance.
Yeah.
General
You
maintenance.
do, and this is maintenance.
I understand.
We did on the top.
In kind.
I don't know, either way, we will go, if you
I'm
think
just
we need
asking.
to, I'll check with them just to make
I
sure.
just want to make sure we do things
Yeah,
the right
the scope of
way.
the project would
That makes sense.
not
Okay.
affect the facade, but. yeah.
Okay. So
No action.
basically there's no action on
Well,
this?
it's really up to y'all. I just want you to understand why I was asking. My recommendation, though, now that you've taken that first action, would be to if you want to, authorize it, what do you call it, conditional on whether or not Pew is going to do that work,
We
right?
came to this discussion 3-4 years ago, we replaced the roof.
Yes.
What
Well,
did
it's
we,
been a little, it's
No,
longer
it's
than
not,
that.
it's not 3 or 4. It hadn't been since I've been here.
what did we do?
It's
Did
been
we?
since I left.
That's why I'm
Well, I can
saying
tell you
just-
exactly what we did. We redid the metal roof up top. It's probably been about 7 years ago, maybe.
Those last.
But the two sides
And that's where,
Right.
that's where it's leaking.
where the flat roof is,
The gravel
that's
roof.
been a good 10 years at
And they
least.
did not remove the gravel when they did that work.
They just did the flash.
They just did
didn't they?
PTO and the flashing they did was substandard.
So in reality, I agree with you. More likely than not, it's going to get rebuilt. But it might be better to actually have that design of rebuilding it tied into any potential design for the whole structure.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
Have them
And we
look
could
at-
go, you could, if you wanted to, you could, sorry, Mayor, you could authorize the roof if you thought that was not going to happen, Phil. And you could make that authorization conditional, or you could roll the dice and say, well, we'll bring this back if we need to.
Yes, sir, please.
I know the metal roof ought to last forever. Why they would want to mess with that, I don't know. The two side roofs, as Ms. Howe knows, were done during my tenure. And they corrected a slope issue. They put multiple layers of some kind of poly stuff up there and sealed it and changed the drainage areas over here so the stuff didn't back up on the roof. And we had no problems for quite a long time. But we used to have water coming down here. Water
Well, we
coming
still
down
do
the wall.
now.
We still now.
The problem generally has been that you see throughout the building. The joints between that part of the building and the side parts of the building.
Well, no, but now there is a swale here.
Is there?
Yeah. So this definitely needs to be fixed. The decking has to be
Okay,
fixed.
I'm just giving a history of.
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happened up here.
It lasted a long time.
So Scott, what's the time, how long would it take? Because we got roof issues.
Weeks,
Now, right?
probably weeks. I think the guy, it depends on his schedule, right? But he could get done pretty quick. Now, if it's Pew, if we go the Pew route, well, that'll depend on whether or not you all actually do the project, and that could be months and months and months down the road.
I think we may have
Come back with a report.
Okay.
I believe that. Y'all okay with that?
Yep.
Come back with a report.
I'm going to listen online and offer
Okay.
comments that don't want to.
Well, the only thing we need you here for actually is the future agenda items, if you want to go and read us in, to find out when you want to do the workshop. Or do you want to just do the workshop like we did today and do it
No.
at 3:30 prior to the meeting?
We need more time.
We need more time.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about having a workshop separate from the council meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Send y'all dates.
Can you stick around just to give a dates?
No, I apologize. Is that another budget workshop?
Yeah.
we're discussing?
Yes. What I'd like to have is a 11 to 5 or a 6-hour time, let's do it all, be done with it.
Okay.
Not be interrupted by another meeting, separate day. Make it
Right.
happen. Work the schedules. I'm pretty flexible.
What for y'all? What works better, Mondays or Fridays?
I will yield that to this gentleman right here.
Mondays or Fridays are the days that work best for me, by far and away.
Now I will
I
ask
do
everyone.
not care which of those two.
Now
is.
I will ask everyone else.
That was the 28th or something.
Or the 1st of August.
29th or.
Okay, just so everybody knows, I am leaving Friday, the 18th, and I don't need to be at this
The
meeting.
18th of
This is the 26th.
This Friday, the
25th. Okay.
and I will be gone until I'll get in at midnight on the 12th, which I'll miss our next council meeting.
Okay.
Can we? I would like to either do it on Friday the 1st of August or Friday the 25th of August. That'd be like this Friday or the following.
Can we do it on the 1st of August? You can't do it this Friday quick enough.
I don't need to be there.
You don't have enough time to post
Well,
this one.
I'm gonna be gone Friday, so it doesn't matter.
yeah. So the 1st is fine. As far as I can
1st of August.
tell, as far as I can tell on my calendar, there's not a conflict with that Friday.
Was the first? That's fine.
Do you know if is there a conflict?
I
But
can't do
none
it.
of you
It's a-
guys can miss it.
Just don't laugh, because I'll be in.
Y'all don't want to do it on the 28th? A Monday?
No, I can't do the 28th.
Okay,
Well, does the 1st work?
then the 1st.
Yeah, because I'm not going to be there. You all have to be there.
Right. That's what he's saying. You do have to have four.
I have to have everybody here. The 1st. You okay with that? All right, and let's set it up for,
Midnight.
I'm going to offer that. Mr. Lee, what's the best time for you? I'm going to offer.
Yesterday,
No, what the best hours of the day?
11.
11 to 5. Let's set it up tentatively.
Okay.
Okay?
We get free lunch.
Can we do that, folks?
Yep.
11 to 5 on the 1st. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
We'll think about you.
Just don't laugh when I come in a boot.
Okay.
They finally got my.
We'll do
We're
that.
doing packets, because that's when I put packets out
Okay.
every day, so I
What
want
do we decide on the roof?
We're gonna let Scott handle it and then bring back a report. He can't spend the money. He can't spend the money. It's over his limit. But find out what's going on with
We
that.
need to raise.
It'll be me and Phil and
We need to raise Scott's limit on what he can spend.
Oh,
Were there any other items under future agendas that you
Well,
wanted to
you've
discuss?
got two for me already. You may have one other.
Do we need to add the mosquito thing?
If you'd like to, yeah. I sent you an email that you haven't read yet, but
I sent
it's up to you. Yeah.
Did you want to give us a city administrator's report or anything? I'm good with what we have, or if anybody has any questions, please.
The only thing I wanted to highlight was in, actually not my report, but in the Public Works report, there is a gas, we were going to have a presentation today, but in interest of time,
Right.
we cut that out. The lady that did the gas capacity analysis and that team, I can't speak highly enough of them. I think they did a very thorough job. Bob Lee left that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Lee has departed the meeting at 9:25. I apologize.
That's right. I was
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but I will say I talked to Javier. I read that report. There's a lot of things in there that I have questions are because I read some of the cathodic protection rules, the rectifiers, we put them in, the need of anodes, very interesting stuff. And I told him, I said, I'd really like to sit down with you, not to tell you what to do, but maybe give you some thoughts on how things are. And when they come to their mapping, some of the lines that they are guessing where they are or up.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting there and says, no, it's not there.
Yeah, we've
Or it's
had to
over
do
here.
some potholing
So
and found them in some
I
cases.
can help with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not the fix-it guy, but I want to be able to help.
Sure, we'd appreciate that.
So-
So back to, we were going to have a presentation tonight.
Yeah.
That got moved. So that's something that I know council wanted to see was a presentation from Javier. And we were going to recommend not just Javier, but also this group that did our capacity analysis to talk about the state of the system and the projects they recommended as part of the, strengthening of our gas system.
Right now, I would propose that to be on the next agenda.
Right.
I'm sorry. We'll tell you all about it. But I think that's something important that everybody needs to be aware of.
Right.
Where we're at, especially to look at honestly what it's going to really take.
Right.
I
So
think
we'll look
so
at
I would hope that I would want that up front. Blame me. I went to Scott or Deborah. I moved this back because I figured we have a lengthy discussion.
Yeah.
Go 10:30, yes.
So I have a question regarding your report. Do we know, I know we found out what was going on with the siren at Walmart, the other siren that malfunctioned.
Well, see, I don't know if it was more than one or not, because the only one that was reported back to me by the county was the one by Walmart.
Do we just want to have a future agenda item on the status of the sirens?
On emergency management and the sirens, and we can get Mr. Chadwick to come to our meeting.
Yeah, the one that
Ask
went
him.
off.
He's
at
already
midnight
talked about
was
that.
the one over near my house.
Okay, I was told something
The
different.
one that
And
went
I
off
wasn't in
this
town.
evening was the Walmart one.
Yes.
And
The other
from I
night-
heard from the officer, they couldn't stop it, so
Yeah,
they
they
literally
got
unplugged
flagged
it.
for the
They literally
battery,
unplugged
yeah.
it, disabled it.
The irony is, they just literally just went through the entire county's sirens
Yep.
and updated them all and made sure they're all functioning. And you can see that in my report. I'm like,
Yeah,
hey,
that's why I was asking.
turns
they're
out,
functioning.
nope.
We checked.
Okay, and then I have a couple of questions real quick. For the police department, now that the Moist Center is becoming a Catholic high school, the PD had let us know that they're going to have to do interlocal agreements for having a police officer at each school. Has our PD looked at that on how that's going to impact them now with another school to provide?
Including parochial schools?
They have to have a resource officer. They
Yes.
either have to hire one or
And-
contract
Yes.
with one.
Yes, all schools. So, and I know they were looking at that, so I didn't know if the PD was starting to plan to have a body there and how they were going to work that.
That school would not be a local government, so it would not be able to form an interlocal agreement.
Well,
And that is all I'm not going to speak any more about that matter because I am involved in that.
okay. And then for animal services, there's been a lot of reports in the area, San Antonio, Bernie, et cetera, of rabies cases on the rise. Just wanted to know if Animal Services has seen a rise in Castroville area, and if yes, how are we getting the word out to citizens for them to be aware?
We did do about this, I think this newsletter before maybe, there was, and there's been a post on Nextdoor about a rabies case. So I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head, but my suspicion is that no, there's not really on the rise necessarily. We haven't had multiple cases, that kind of thing, but it has happened here. And in my 4 years, it's happened twice that I'm aware of, where there's been rabid animals of one sort or another. I know our deer have been infected with not rabies, but a virus that impacts
Right.
the deer that can be harmful to humans if you come in contact. So.
Okay. Then, sorry, I'm almost there. As far as under the code enforcement, the one property on Old Highway 90 has been out of compliance for many years. What kind of suspense have we given them to start having the property cleaned up? As it states in there, the contractor passed away and the son is coming to fix the property, but nothing about okay, you have 30 days.
Who are we talking about? Which property?
The one on Old Highway 90?
The chicken houses?
Yeah, where they had the for sale sign next to the urgent care clinic.
The lady passed away?
No, it says the contractor passed away. And that the son was working on getting it all cleaned up, but there was nothing about what kind of suspense the city.
Where'd you get your information from?
It's in the back.
It's in the report.
Presentation.
The code compliance. It's code compliance.
Code
report.
compliance, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'll have to. So you're asking what specific? Have we done any additional enforcement?
Yes. And then for the development at address of 808 Highway 90, that's the one that's over near El Portel, that they're.
The
Yes.
commercial building?
Yes.
They imported the concrete today.
Yes. Have we heard anything about how many businesses are going to be going there?
Took out the
Because
car wash.
parking is already a problem thanks to El Portel.
Yeah, they have a lot. Oh, next. You mean right here?
Yeah.
I don't. We met. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know who's going to be in there. It looks like professional office space, but I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a
because,
sign out in front that says for lease. So
Right.
They haven't found someone yet.
right. Well, I'm just looking at parking because parking is always already a problem thanks to the crowd going into El Portel. They're parking in.
Brianna told us that there's no minimum parking requirements.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, there is.
The
for federal,
comprehensive
yes.
zoning ordinance there are based on the type of
Yes.
business.
Depends on how
But-
close it is to Houston Square.
Right, it depend, right, it depend,
Yeah, it's on the other side.
I know,
I know,
but that
but
might not be that far.
it depends on the type of occupancy on the number of
Right.
parking spaces.
I'm just looking at the parking because parking is already a problem
Yeah.
over there. And we got to make sure that if it's going to affect the parking at other businesses to include the library.
I understand. I would just say this kind of blanket. We are following our code as it's adopted.
Sure.
Right.
We are not going to let them do anything less than what the code allows.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing I saw on Joma's report, splash pad repairs. Is this all are all the deficient items covered under a warranty? Between the slab cracking and what have you?
How old is that splash pad?
We just did a year?
Yeah, it's 2 years old, I think.
What's the warranty
But it's
period?
had an issue since it
Since
was
day one?
Yeah.
it was open. The short answer is yes, it should be.
Okay.
But I'll be honest, we may have to go to litigation to force that thing to be repaired the way it needs to be.
Okay.
Right now, it's not looking like we have to, but I've not been impressed with our
Contractor.
yeah, the aquatic group.
Okay.
They seem to point the fingers a lot, and they have been less than helpful. They were the same ones that did our heaters and our pool entry
Oh,
and some other
goodness.
things. And some of those projects they did great, but some of them they just drug their feet on. When there's a problem, when they're there to put in something new, they're lickety split and they get it done. When it's a problem with something that was installed, it seems like it takes forever to get resolution. And unfortunately, the way that splash pad was carried out, we bought the splash pad, if you will, from a company
Yes.
that then subcontracted elements of the workout that were to be installed as per the design, right? And we don't believe that the proper amount of compaction took place, and that could be part of what we're seeing. Essentially, what's happened is the lines have been filled. Some of the line, so we have half of it that works and half that doesn't, and the half that does, and we've replaced all kinds of different components of it. But the half that doesn't, the lines, we've cambered them, we've done different things. They're filled with silt and rock and stuff, which they shouldn't be. I mean, they're buried, lines. How did that get in there, right? So we think some shifting has occurred. The slab has failed, like in places there's cracks in it. So that all of that's indicative, one, that we're in a drought, and two, that that potentially the design standards that were required by this company were not followed. And ultimately, who's at fault? Is it the aquatics group or the guy that did the slab?
Sure.
And so there's a little bit of finger pointing, and Jonah, not making excuses for him, but one of the real challenges is he's doing this community center project at the same time, which is a pretty big and important project.
Okay.
You and I need to talk about that because I didn't realize that's going on, but that's up my alley of expertise.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm done.
Mosquitoes for next agenda
Vector.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
item. And then,
If you will look at the
on
email and
consumption
tell me.
versus permit, it's really hard to read those numbers. It looks like we're gonna bump up right against if you look at.
It does. It does. We're being somewhat conservative on those estimates. The other thing I need to admit to is I was thinking we were going to have final plats of these developments by the end of the year. Brianna's told me she didn't think it's going to be quite that quick.
Yeah.
But bottom line, we'll have those rights in our hand before houses are built, right? After the infrastructure is put in, after the roads are put in, that kind of thing. But before houses start to be built, the final plat has to be approved, and they have to give us the water rights. And they have the two, Flat Creek and Heights of Castroville both have the water rights to give us. So that's also a good news. Alsatian Oaks, I don't know if they have them or not.
Let me ask you a question on that, if I may, on the water.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to ask you a question. And we do it, so I don't know if the city does, or if you ever thought about this. They tied in Flat Creek today supposedly into the water line. Do we bill them for the amount of water it takes to fill their system and flush their system? Because that could be a significant amount of water. They've got to fill it.
Yeah.
They've got to flush it 2 or 3 times to make it safe drinking. So there's a substantial amount of water that they're using before.
I think we do because I
just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, they're usually required to get a construction meter.
Okay.
Right. But I'll verify that. But that's been my experience. You have to get a construction
I
meter.
think so
to
too, but I wanted
yeah.
to ask
Yeah.
just to make sure because that could be substantial in a big subdivision.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, it should be, but I'll verify that.
Okay,
And then
thank you.
lastly, with the siren, the emergency guy, you said would come
Uh-huh.
to the next meeting.
Yep.
I didn't say next meeting. I said at a future meeting.
We're going to try to.
I don't. Well, you and I will talk about once we get the agenda together, whether he's going to be at the next meeting. But anyway.
I'm assuming, and I don't want to, but, we have different sirens for different events. Is that accurate?
No.
We just have one sound.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The outdoor siren, it's not intended to really give you information except go to cover now. Go get in cover now,
If it's
right?
a flood, where you don't want to go east, you want to go up the hill.
But
Right.
Stuff like that.
Understood.
But you get the alarms go out in addition to the alert system that we send out too.
So it's just one siren, okay.
Yeah, and the alert system really is what we need to encourage people to sign up for, because if they do, the flood warnings, all of that goes through that system. I mean, the Manita County is very on top of, at least this emergency management coordinator and his predecessor are very on top of getting those out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the water.
And those are the
Yeah.
city
I
sirens,
guess
by the way.
related to that,
City
Scott,
paid
and
for
this
it.
is have credence because I got fussed at, and I knew there wasn't a flood, and I knew there wasn't a storm, and I
Yeah.
figured in the back of my mind it was just a faulty alarm. But I guess in the future, if it happened again at midnight, then we would
Send it.
I alert would go out.
Yeah, I debated whether to do it or not, honestly, to have an iInfo. And again, lessons learned.
He was out of country.
I feel like it was damned
in
if.
another part of the state. It's your fault.
Well, I feel like I was damned if I do, damned if I don't. I know that if we'd issued an iInfo, people are like, why aren't people waking us up? Because they weren't woken up to start with, because they didn't hear it. But then the ones that did hear it, we said, why didn't they let us know? But I think in the future, probably the better course of action would have been to issue an iInfo. We had the ability to issue one. Like there were people awake
I was one of them.
texting me about it and others. And so we probably could have issued one through the county, if nothing else, because he has the same ability we do to put a geofence around who he issues it to. But anyway.
There's a lot of things to discuss on that.
Yeah.
I know
figure
Scott's
you
working.
learn by past experiences. You now have a different plan.
Well, do we need it on an agenda item to figure out how to resolve?
You know what? Maybe not next one, but like I said, when we have a time, I think it would be beneficial that we try to get the county's emergency manager to come here and do a presentation for y'all. And we're understanding the sirens are owned by the city, but how we coordinate the operations of those. Who pulls the plug? Who has to tell who before they do that? And how it's part of the NIM stuff. We all working together.
Right.
Okay?
This council needs NIMS training.
They do. This council, I don't know how many of y'all have had. I have too, yeah. Those type of trainings are critical for emergency management. Incident commands and the NIMS training, they're not issues, they just, how everything flows during an emergency.
Where do we get that training?
It has to be put on, what? Yeah, you can do some of it online. If you go to look at NIMS, National Incident Management System, NIMS, NIMS, you can get some training on your own. There is a training that you're required to have that I think has to be given in person. And no,
After 9/11, they sent us.
I know, but there's for as elected officials, there's a half-day training they have to take. I don't know. Maybe they can do it online. Anyway,
we went through all of that.
And see, Bernie.
We have to? How come no one's mentioned it?
On what's that?
I mentioned it when I first got here. We just haven't made it
what
a
training?
priority. The NIMS. There is a NIMS training that elected officials are required to do. What's that?
So we're required to take a half.
Yeah, it's like basically a half day. Yeah.
Live or online?
That's what I didn't know. I've always done it live, but Deborah thinks that maybe we could do it online. I don't know, but that would be a great question for our emergency management coordinator when he gets here. He is, I believe, a train the trainer. He is authorized to train everyone.
And along that lines, it wouldn't be a bad idea in future, month two, whatever, to have a tabletop for us, for the city. Basically, it simulates an emergency.
They do one for the, yeah.
Last time I had one with the county. And
Well, they do one for the dam, but that's almost a joke now.
yeah, no, we need to have one. For example, you got a major gas leak. What are you going to do? Or you have to flood.
Mm-hmm.
The river came up, wiped out your water lines. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And you just walk through it.
Yep.
Who's responsible for what, when, where, and how?
Yep.
We need that.
Yep.
Okay, going on.
Future agenda. On that.
Well, wait,
Okay,
you had your water thing.
I'm sorry.
You finished your.
Did you have something else? I'm sorry.
Mosquito.
The council AV system, it's it working now or still?
Well,
Off and on tonight.
Okay.
well, it worked, I think, during the second meeting. During the budget workshop, it
Went off at
it
least
quit at
once.
one point.
When we started, it
Better.
went off, and then I clicked the
So you're
microphone,
still
and
trying
it's
to
been
work
on,
that
so
Yep.
we don't know.
Gremlins are still
We
there.
blame that one on Houston.
Yep.
No, that's mean,
It's not
but I will give him full authority to do it in the future.
There you go. Done.
Yes, full
Nothing-
access.
and nothing
We have
progressing
two
on the
people working on it.
CPS dispute. And the.
I do have CPS dispute. I just want to mention this. I met with the attorney during TPPA. That's in my report.
Good.
What isn't in my report is following our meeting, we were waiting to see what CPSE's rate. They applied for a new rate.
I seen
I
that.
sent you the.
There is no element of our dispute in their rate. That's actually a good thing. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because we don't need to go to litigation with them. We're not going to be wrapped. They will go to litigation over their rate request. It's going to happen. The batteries, someone's going to dispute it. There will be litigation over it. But we won't be party to that litigation. That's good because that would have cost us some money.
Absolutely.
It's bad because that's the attorney, the outside attorney that we were working with is on that case. He's been assigned to that case. So for the next 9 months, he's working on that case. That's what he's doing.
Do we pay him a retainer?
What's that?
No, the CPS
No.
is-
CPSE's outside counsel.
Oh.
We pay our guy he only charges us a minimum, like a couple
Who's their
$100.
attorney on the case?
Clark Hill. It's Tom Anson.
Their attorney?
No, their attorney.
I used to know when I fought CPS before, it was Paul Garza.
No, it's not that. It's not
Okay.
him. Well, they have inside counsel and outside counsel.
Yes, yes. Yeah, they can beat you down with the money.
I can't remember their names.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, drainage, I see you're building the street there on, excavating the street there next to, Bob's property.
Yes.
And it's getting.
It's not a street, it's a drainage.
Drainage.
It's a paper street.
Well, paper street.
Yeah, it's drainage.
Drainage.
It's not going to be a street anymore.
Drainage.
It's going to be a drainage ditch.
And I haven't seen the plans of it. How, are we gonna put some kind of a,
There'll be riprap at the bottom.
well, I mean, because along there, next heavy rain is just gonna make a big washout there.
Right.
But you probably know that.
So it'll be riprap and concrete. We got those designs today.
Okay.
You should look at those.
Okay.
Given that yeah, you should look at those.
Okay.
Oh, that I recommend it. And then the, nothing, I see you keep building up fill material on that vacant property, but there's no way that, because I assume that material that's being put on the vacant property there behind Albros Mechanical or whatever. Albino's over by the cemetery, but that's coming out of that excavation along that roadway, right?
Probably.
Yeah, the city lots off London Street.
Some of it probably came from our community development project.
Okay.
And some of it was from.
But and I was thinking as I drove by there and saw those, you guys could probably go just throwing that up there in that pond, and we can spread it out and compact it later.
Yeah, you and I need to talk about that pond.
Okay.
Is those piles of dirt, I'm just asking, are they impeding the drainage in any way across that property?
Probably.
Yep, I think so. Okay, just a thought.
I don't know if they're making it worse. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that wasn't much of a detention area. Frankly, it was a runoff area.
I know.
And then I saw the community center is up and running, and they're framing it, and it's looking nice. You guys haven't driven by it, so it's moving along. That's it.
Yeah, they're getting the outside sheeting on the lumber that started going on last week.
All right, is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
Does staff need council action to fog for mosquitoes? Or is that something they're authorized to just go do without it coming to council?
It doesn't have to go to council, frankly, but if you wanted to talk about it, you could. We haven't been doing it. We did it when Devin was here, but it was really only in association with events, with specific, like when we were about to do July 4th or something. There was a time before Devin was here when y'all bought some equipment. That equipment has not been maintained. I don't think it's functional. It's on the back end of a truck that's surplus. It's not being used. The truck isn't. So we've been looking. I've got one quote to go and fog the city. But the thing
you answered my question. We have a future agenda item on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
You also have to have someone that, when I was on council before, they regularly went and did it off the equipment that's not been maintained. But you also have to have the person who's doing it.
Yeah, you have to have licenses, and we don't. We don't have those right.
Well, okay. When I worked here, there was 2 employees that had the non-commercial operators license. There's actually 3 job descriptions to require employees to have it, but I'm surprised they don't. Vector control licenses.
We've had them before.
Anyway, that's something we need to look at. Is there anything else for discussion?
No.
Anything else? Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right, no discussion. It is 9:48. This meeting is adjourned.